Good evening and welcome to the Timberlane Regional School Board meeting of Thursday, November 1st. We are sorry we were delayed this evening, so the start time is 7:56. Roll call, Mrs. Belcher, please.
Mr. Boyle.
He's here.
Okay. Lee Doobie.
Here.
Kim Farah.
Here.
Sheila Lowe's.
Here.
Sarah Markimer.
Here.
Sean O'Neill.
Here.
Kristen Savage.
Present.
Sue Sherman.
Here.
Jennifer Silva.
Here.
Also seated with the board this evening are the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Earl Metzler, and Student Representative Nick Valhooley.
Mr. Brown, would you like to lead us in the pledge this evening?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have minutes in front of us. October 18th. Public minutes. I'll entertain a motion when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Mr. Boyle makes a motion, a second.
Second.
Mrs. Savage makes a second. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous? 9-0-0.
I abstain too.
Oh, I'm sorry, 8-0, and abstaining 1. I'm sorry, Mrs. Holmes.
That's okay, I wasn't here that week.
Okay, that's the only set of minutes, right, Mrs.
Correct.
Belcher? Okay, moving on. Student representative. Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm well.
Alrighty, so I hope everyone had a great Halloween. It was great to see everyone out and about and having a great time. There's also some awesome stuff coming up and a lot of stuff that went down last week, so it's looking to be a great month of November, so I'm really excited. Starting off, November 12th and 13th, there will be no school due to Veterans Day and a Professional Development Day. It's important not to take Veterans Day simply as a day off from school, and it's really important to take it as a true celebration and commemoration of all of the brave soldiers and members of the military who fight for this country and every individual. So on behalf of the student body, I'd like to thank our veterans and soldiers for preserving our freedoms and liberty, and we can't express our gratitude for the impact that you have made. And at Atkinson Academy last Friday, I saw some great pictures of something the 5th grade class did, which was the pumpkin book art projects. And I was really impressed by the pieces of art these students were making, so big thumbs up to the students over at Atkinson. Also at Atkinson, November 15th will be their TRSD Family Literacy Night, where authors and illustrators will be visiting during school, and there will also be a literacy event at the PAC that night, 5:30 to 7:30, which they encourage any families that would like to attend. At Pollard School, the students have been working hard to create holiday cards for the members of our military, and from what I saw, they came out amazing. So a huge thank you to the students there for doing something so powerful and meaningful. It's great these days to see students showing this care and kindness for others. Also at Pollard, a big shout out to the 4th and 5th grade class of Mrs. Hazelton, who wrapped up Bullying Prevention Month by creating a buddy bench, which is a bench by the recess area, which encourages students to interact with new people, and it creates this friendship, which is really just great to see during this time. So a great job to Mrs. Hazelton's class. At Danville Elementary, I heard the 4th and 5th grade students had a great time at their STEM day, where UNH students of the STEM programs came and held interactive lessons and fun activities. The world is always in need of new and innovative minds, and it starts at a young age, so it was really nice to see these kids being so passionate about this newfound knowledge that they're experiencing. And at Sandown North, the teachers have rolled out their November theme of embracing diversity, and it was kicked off by students making videos talking about diversity and other relevant topics surrounding unity. regardless of where you stand, I think we can all agree that as a community, we really need to come together. So this was really wonderful to see, starting at such a young age. At the middle school, Seussical the Musical rehearsals have started, and really like every other show that the middle school produces, it's bound to be amazing, so I'm really excited for that. Online ski club registrations have also begun, and I can kind of speak for myself that I had an amazing time during ski club back in middle school, so I urge all parents and students really to look into it because it's a great time. And at the high school, this past week was the National Honor Society's Harvest Fest, which was extremely successful. There were games, prizes, just like good vibes, so that's really all you need. And on November 8th, Rho Kappa Honor Society will be hosting their annual Veterans Day brunch, where the members of the society learn the stories of the veterans and gain valuable knowledge of history from the source. So it's going to be another great time with them as always. I attended last year. I'm attending this year, so I'm really excited to go through with that. And fall sports have finished up their seasons and began their banquets and all sorts of celebrations. So a big thank you to the coaches and volunteers for another great season of sports. The Milkman improvisational show, the next one will take place on Friday, November 16th. So mark your calendars because they're always a ton of fun, and I'm really excited for that one as well. And finally, the Timberland Players wrapped up their last week of rehearsals for their two shows, the Laramie Project and Our Town. Our Town will be performed on Wednesday and Friday at 7 p.m. and then Saturday at 2 p.m. And then the Laramie Project will be taking place Thursday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 7 p.m. Both casts have been working really like beyond hard on these shows, so I'm in both. So, so all community members are obviously highly encouraged to come. It's going to be an amazing show. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for that positive press, as always, Nick. Beautifully done. Remember, in our packet is the rundown of what's been going on, including color pictures of the concert that's on November 11th, the Our Town, the Laramie Project. There'll be other things happening, so take that home and take a good look at that if you wish, and it's there for anyone that would like to have a copy of that. We'd love some positive press on that.
I had asked about getting this posted, and I just wanted to thank Dr. Messler for doing that and
Thank you.
getting this information out there. I think it's a great thing. for the
No,
public,
thanks,
so.
thanks for the suggestion, and I thank Mr. Henderson, our technology director, because he helped those bit emoji things that we have. We have a little, because the first time we sent it out, it was kind of, so trying to make it a little, and we're gonna try to get that out on the Wednesday before your board meeting.
Yeah.
So you know how you usually get this this night? It'll be there if you go on Twitter. You'll be able to get it a day earlier, if we'll have, right? Usually by Wednesday, right?
Nick, I'm pleased that you're trying to give a report of all the schools in the district.
My pleasure. Yeah.
That's a really good touch. So,
A busy
thank
man.
you. Yes. Delegates and individuals. Kathy, do we have anybody tonight?
None.
All right, moving along then to current business. School action plan. I believe the high school is here, ready to present. So come on up and get organized, and we're ready to hear your action plan, gentlemen and ladies.
Dick, about 52 years ago, the school had its first play, just for what?
It was Our Town, right? Was it Our Town? Yep. Classic. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, no, it's going to be great.
Okay, tonight, we're going to be doing a review of the goals that we had last year, and then we'll move into our goals for the 2018-19 school year. We'll introduce ourselves as we go. I'm the principal, Don Woodworth, and I'll start it off with the goals review. Last year, goal number 1, the high school will improve positive student behaviors in the classroom that affect teaching and learning through a multi-level system of supporting students and teachers, as evidenced by decreased student discipline referrals and increased positive reporting by the high school faculty and staff. So that was a goal that we met. We had a decrease in, you can see it up there as a significant decrease in the number of discipline referrals. We went from 405 to 218. So we're very proud of that. In regard to positive reporting, we had the the teachers report that we had less stress, that the building was less hectic last year. We do attribute that to the change in the schedule, going from 7 passing times to having 3 between classes. Is a big difference. More time to plan, more time for teachers to correct papers. They quoting that they had better student relationships, I think because of the amount of time with the students in the class, more personalization is possible. There's a more manageable workload each night for the teachers and for the students, and we felt that they were able to go deeper into the curriculum, so we were pleased with those reports from the staff. Second goal, high school will foster a positive school culture that increases levels of support and communication with our school community members, students, teachers, and parents. We thought we met that also. We had 5 new student-initiated clubs. We had regular use of our school messenger, able to contact parents with messages in email or voice. We had Timberland Parent Advisory Forum sessions and PPAP sessions, which were very successful. We sent out monthly principal notices to the district on the website. We had monthly meetings with the Timberland Support Staff Union and the Timberland Teachers Association. They were very positive, productive. We had weekly messages from our assistant principal, Mr. Scott Strange, who's our associate principal this year. Positive messages to staff in the Aloha tradition that he's famous for with all his trips to Hawaii with students. Coffee and Conversation, which is a staff-to-staff opportunity. Our academic team of administrators opens up the dean's office, and the teachers can come in on a day to talk about their craft. There's usually a topic posted, and they get support in small groups throughout the day. And then community fundraisers, we had several. We really, I think, have set a high bar in terms of student involvement in community fundraising projects. And you can see we had Project Hope and Muley's Meals in particular, both raised over $10,000 for the community. We had other positive things that came up. The students and staff had a Win the Day theme to the year, which we're doing again this year. A lot of people meeting up to school voluntarily to find ways to make the school a happier place. The Jumpman's Choir, a group that would meet in front of the school each week or in the front hall of the school and sing popular songs to kick off the week in a positive way. So, again, we felt that the climate was really very healthy last year.
So I'm Mark Pedersen. I'm the Director of Secondary Curriculum. I'll take goal number 3. So in review, in the 2017-18 school year, TRHS will work in collaboration with all district schools to continue to develop instructional and assessment practices aligned to our competency-based curriculum with the goal of full creation of an assessment and reporting program by June of 2019. So because this is sort of an ongoing goal by June of 2019, we felt as though the status was ongoing here. But we did have some really positive outcomes last year. We've had staff professional development, and that's still ongoing, with ongoing development of competency-based assessments and rubrics. We had, for a couple of summers, summer teacher institutes, where teachers would come in the summer and help develop assessments, rubric development, and instructional planning as colleagues. We used school improvement money to form after-school committees around curriculum and assessment work. And finally, we worked with an outside consultant around instructional practices and personalized learning in the block.
I am Heather Cronin, and I'm going to start our new 2018-2019 school goals, and I'm the assistant principal. Our first goal is in the 2018-2019 school year, TRHS will develop a positive school climate for learning and personal growth through the following. Support positive academic climate through the use of the Academic Support Center, the writing labs, the study halls, and our response to instruction system of support. To design and implement programs for staff and students to discuss topics of relevance to their social and emotional well-being. We want to reinvent our advisory program to personalize it and make it relevant to what's going on in our students' lives. Continue to offer opportunities and events that unify students and staff around the ideals of our OWLS acronym, which is offer your best, work cooperatively, live responsibly and lend a helping hand, and speak and act respectfully towards all. And lastly, we want to implement the components of the No Bully program, which is the district No Bully initiative. I'm going to swap out.
My name is Timothy Guanci. I'm the Dean of STEM for grades 6 through 12. I'm going to be reading goal number 2. In the 2018 and 2019 school year, TRHS will increase student achievement as demonstrated on school-wide, statewide, and national assessments, including New Hampshire statewide assessment system, Science Grade 11 SAT, and Advanced Placement exams, Common Performance Assessments, midterms, and finals.
I'm Tim Brown, new assistant principal at the high school this year. I'll be presenting goal number 3. In the 2018-2019 school year, TRHS will support student learning by empowering teachers to develop and implement effective teaching strategies as measured by walkthrough data collection and staff review, and staff-involved instructional rounds.
Good evening, I'm Scott Strange, Associate Principal at the high school. I'll be talking about the continuing and alternative education program. So in 17-18, continuing and alternative goals, we started with, by June 2018, the Timberlane Continuing and Alternative Education Program will work to develop processes and protocols associated with the HiSET program to include accountability measures, expectations for participation, parental involvement, eligibility requirements, and refined roles and responsibilities of participating parties. We met this with regular meetings of the HiSET team, which included our school counseling, special education, myself, and also special ed from the district. An attendance system and tracking of student work, academic hours for HiSET was implemented in that year. Goal number 2, Timberlane Regional School District Evening Division Program will develop a dual enrollment program that will offer at least 2 college-level classes during the Evening Division program hours of operation. This will be ongoing because this year we have started a cohort of adults. Our goal for next year is to start a cohort of students as well. Goal number 3, by June of 2018, the Timberlane Continuing and Alternative Education Program will utilize various data-based measures to monitor and report out student and program progress and to make programmatic decisions for the enhancement of the continuing and alternative education program. We met that by implementing STAR testing in our evening division. Real-time attendance was implemented for the first time, and weekly attendance and accrued hours were reported to school and school counseling staff on a weekly basis. In 2018-19, we'll look to continue some of the work that we did with the HiSET program and then move into some other areas with colleges, as well as some other pieces that we would look to improve in the program. Goal number 1, by June 2019, the Timberlane Continuing and Alternative Education Program will implement processes and protocols associated with the HiSET and diploma requirements as measured by the completion of the following steps. Implement criteria for program eligibility at both junior and senior levels. Implement expectations for participation. Creation of junior and senior informational flowcharts for those programs, and update and revise program materials to reflect the new criteria. Goal number 2, by June 2019, the Timberlane Regional School District Evening Division Program will develop a dual enrollment program as measured by the addition of 2 college-level offerings for students in the Evening Division Program in the 2019 and 2020 school year. And goal number 3, by August of 2019, there will be a 3% increase in the percentage of students who successfully recover at least 1 class credit through the summer school program.
Thank you, Angelo Fantasia, Athletic Director for the district. Athletic Department, 17-18 goals in review. Our first goal was to update and improve our athletic department emergency action plan. That was met, although I would tell you that we will continue to keep doing that in this day and age. We work with coaches, athletic trainers, students to improve the athletic department's EAP, emergency action plan. reviewed and edited the existing plan, and each of our teams in their medical kits has a copy at all times with them of the emergency action plan. Goal number 2, work with superintendent, plan operations personnel, develop short-term, long-term priorities for the facility needs of the athletic department. That is ongoing, but the communication has been very, very positive. Field maintenance plan was prepared and accepted by the school board through collaboration of athletics, facilities, and grounds. Through the capital improvement plan process, short-term and long-term priorities were developed. And we do have regular meetings with myself and facilities and grounds for immediate needs and operations. The 18-19 goals. Goal number 1, thank you, by the way. Goal number 1, during the 2018-19 school year, TRSD Athletic Department will increase the percentage of multi-sport student athletes promoting fitness, healthy lifestyles, and expose students to positive life lessons and experiences through participation in the athletic department. And the plan is that, encourage coaches and adults, and trainers, and myself will encourage athletes to be playing multiple sports and know the benefits of doing that. Try to educate student athletes and parents about the benefits of staying active through healthy competition, and acknowledge the student athletes as often as possible who are participating in multiple sports. And our second goal will be during the 18-19 school year, the athletic department will expand the Life of an Owl program to promote leadership and education around social and emotional skill development, as measured by an increase in participants from a more diverse population. I had the pleasure of being a presenter for middle school kids and parents at Northern Essex Community College for our middle school, and I brought several of our Life of an Owl students to help in our presentation for Life of an Owl program, which was very successful. Also, we're collaborating with the NHIA. We recently, last week, during our half-day, just had another training of our Life of an Owl program. We had about 40 kids from middle school and high school participate in the training. I think it's important for people to know we conduct those trainings on a half-day in the afternoon. So these kids give up their afternoon from 12 to 3. We do feed them, so maybe that's why they come, but they give up their afternoon and come to our training. We have 2 members, 2 coordinators from the NHIA's Life of an Athlete program come and share their time with us. So it's very successful. And we continue to send student representation to student leadership programs through the NHIA. This March, again, we will send at least 2 male and 2 female, maybe 3 and 3, to the State Student Leadership Conference as well as the New England Leadership Conference. So we're very excited about the program, and it's okay. Very excited about the program, and it's been very successful. And I believe right now we may have somewhere around 150 kids that have been trained either here or outside in our school. So we're really proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? There's a lot of information. Tried to review what they did last year and give you some suggestions with what they're gonna try to do this year. So, yes, Jen?
Just a question about the continuing ed in evening division.
All right, let Mr. Strange come back to the microphone.
Just a general question, because I don't really know a lot about it, but
Sure.
how many people do we have that participate in that? And do we have a different set of educators, or how many?
Nope, all of our educators for our evening division program teach in the high school, so we don't have anybody from the outside. We have, well, actually, I should say, we have 1 person who teaches phys ed for us from Sanborn, but we have 2 phys ed teachers, 1 from Timberlane and 1 from Sanborn. So we have a total this year of 70 students in our program. 11 of those students are evening division only students. The rest of the students are a mix of day and evening division classes. We have 9 in our high set program. So that's the breakdown of the numbers for the program itself.
Thanks.
And that's just for the first semester. We have a second semester too. So, there may be a different group of kids or more kids. And generally in the spring, we have more because you have some of those seniors or juniors that may have stumbled in the first quarter, first semester, that are looking to get some of those semester classes in the second semester of evening division. All of our evening division classes are in the core, English, Science, Social Studies, and Math, and they are the same curricula as is taught during the day. and again, taught by Timberlane teachers who teach it during the day division as well.
Kim, question?
So, back to that, with the HiSET program,
Mhm.
are those accredited or approved by certain areas? Like, can the students take exams here? under
Yes, they
that
take the
program?
HiSET exam
Here?
through that program at Salem. Salem is a school that does the test itself. We do the preparation.
Why don't we offer the test?
We don't have a site, we haven't been chosen as a site to do it. Salem and Exeter are the two sites that actually deliver the exam. We would have to go through a process in order to become an exam delivery site.
Okay, we just don't wanna do that, or is there some
We could
cost
certainly do that, yep.
associated with that? I
Yep.
mean, it would make it easier for the students.
It would, yep, but it, again, it's something that we could talk about going through that process. Maybe we make that a goal as one of the continuing ed programs, that we become a testing site.
Okay.
Yep, and that's something we would work with the state and ETS, who is the actual testing company. Yep.
So, and two other questions, they're on alternative education.
Mhm.
Goals number 2 and 3, it looks like we're trying to increase our evening division, but what we've done by going to block scheduling is allowing students essentially to take 4 extra courses during their high school years.
Mhm.
I would be more in favor of offering more dual enrollment courses during the day and trying to reduce students going to school in the summer. So I guess these goals are kind of counterintuitive, given the fact that we moved to block scheduling.
You could say that. I think that part of it is freeing up their schedule for different things that they want to take during the day. And we may see a reduction of that over time. We still have a group of students in their junior and senior year who have had their schedules, that have not had the opportunity to take some of those music and engineering classes, so they may still be looking to catch up with that. I mean, phys ed, we fill that every single time. We fill that with 2 groups of 30 every time we run it, because students are looking to free up their schedules during the day to, get those other classes in, get those engineering classes in, get those higher level math, get those AP classes in, those kinds of things. So, you're right, we may take a look at the data over time and say, all right, is this effective and efficient, and what could we be doing differently? Certainly.
Okay, so, and it would be, I don't think we offer enough dual enrollment courses during the day, so I'd rather see those offered during the day. And you mentioned that taking higher level courses, I've not seen an increase in students taking courses like AP Cal, AP Physics, AP Chem. I find that they're pretty level, so I'm not sure what they're freeing up their schedule for, but I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, administrators, I don't see huge jumps in our students taking the AP courses in the sciences and math. Am I incorrect?
I don't have that in front of me, but certainly, our numbers have been good, and they have increased over time. That, I can't say that they increased this year from last year, or last year from the year before, but we had taken a dip and we built it back up as we had more success. But it's something we should be looking at, so.
Certainly.
I think it's about building capacity, right, for students that are ready to take those courses.
Well, and unfortunately, I don't see those numbers ramping up, and I've been watching them for at least 5 or 6 years.
You and me both.
Other questions? Yes, Sean?
Yeah, you said that there were 70 students in the classes assigned, I mean, students taking this totally.
Mhm.
There's a variety of classes that you're offering, so what's the class sizes?
Class sizes range anywhere from usually 10 to 15 for those classes. Yep. And we may have some that are smaller, depending on what's run and what's needed. I work really closely with the school counseling office to say, okay, what is needed for students? Do we have a number of students that are the evening division only students? Where are they on their track? Do we need to run Algebra 2? Do we need to run geometry?
I
So we'll take a look at that.
So you're gonna sort of tailor it to what they're gonna need.
Mhm.
The question that I'd like to understand is that, what's the lowest size of enrollment?
We'll generally run with 5 or 6 sometimes, and like I said, anywhere up to 15. And then the phys ed classes, we're running at 30.
All right, so then generally, is it 5 or 6, is that, if you get 1 or 2, you're not gonna have the class?
Yeah, we generally won't run it, but we'll try to find an alternative way to get that student take that class, if it's VLAX or, something else that we can find.
In general, too, have you talked to the students to figure out why are they picking the evening division over something like VLAX? Because you got maximum flexibility with it.
Sure, and a lot of it is a special ed piece. If a student, has difficulty during the day with, 1,300 students in the building or whatever it happens to be. So there's a number of different reasons. We have students that are full-time, they work full-time, so they need to, be helping to support families, so they're taking the class at night. And then again, like I said, if it just didn't fit into their schedule for whatever reason, they may take that class. So there's it's all over the map as to, why they're doing that.
Other questions from other, yes,
got
go
another
ahead,
question,
yeah, go
but
ahead, Sean.
It's not, so if anybody's got a question relative to,
I do have another question relative to this, because I thought the evening division at some level, maybe continuing ed or whatever, was supposed to be revenue neutral. Was that not correct? Isn't that not a policy regarding
Adult ed.
adult ed?
Adult ed.
Is that revenue neutral? Is that not a part of this?
Yeah, that's revenue
So there's
neutral.
it's revenue neutral?
Yeah.
I did, Sue, did you get my email? Because I did send you an email about getting that on the agenda.
Yeah, it is revenue neutral because they charge tuition for that, and we pay the instructors through the tuition.
Okay, but the evening division, I mean, you're running classes consistently at a relatively low number. That seems like this must be fairly costly. I mean,
It's
our high school
alternative pathways
classes-
for our students, and it's, we pay our teachers we pay them stipends rather than a regular salary.
When I first got here, there was I don't want to say it's a full-time position, but there was a position associated with the evening division that was in the budget. It's always been in the budget. It was probably in the $70,000 range. And those responsibilities were absorbed by an assistant principal at the high school. So I think that was one of the things in terms of trying to make the numbers work, but as far as the stipends and that sort of thing, I mean, evening divisions become interesting. It's not just for, it has so many purposes. It's not just for students that are failing classes during the day. It's got quite a, I mean, Scott, Mr. Strange, you could probably expand a little bit of how it's changed a little bit over the last few years.
Sure, it's more of, an alternative pathway for students, and we have students that may, as I said, for whatever reason, for whatever life reasons, may have the opportunity to only go to school at night. They're on track, they're ready to go, and that's one of the things when we talk about, some of the things that we've done and the protocols that we've put in place, is that, we make a determination, is evening division the right way to go, or is high set the right way to go? High set is the GED program. So is evening division the right way to go? Do we have enough time to capture those credits? Or is the high set certificate the best way to go? If we have a student that may be going into the military or is only looking for a 2-year college, then the high set may be the way. They may start looking at evening division and get into evening division and realize that that's too heavy a lift, so they're just going to do the high set, and they're going to do the high set certificate from that point. So there's a number of different ways that we've gone about that business in terms of alternative pathways for our students and ways that they can achieve either the diploma or achieve, success through the high set program. We've had in the last couple of years students who have passed their high set in December and gone into the military in January. We work really closely with the military recruiters in terms of the students that they're working with and talking to, and letting them know where they are in the program and on the process, if they pass the test, how they're passing the test, how they're working towards the test. So there's a number of different pieces there. There's the special ed piece, there's working with the testing site, there's working with the state to ensure that we're meeting all of their regulations and guidelines, there's working with our day division and our evening division teachers to make sure that the curriculum is being delivered, to make sure that the students are where they need to be, that they have all of the support that they need. We've put a learning center in before evening division begins from 3 to 4 o'clock, so that if any students need support or help on some work that they may be doing, or they may be getting ready to take the high set exam, they can get in for another hour and get some more support and some more help with that. So there's a lot of different pieces that we've put in place, and even our learning centers are Timberlane teachers, Timberlane special ed teachers. So we have those kinds of supports for our kids as they're working towards that diploma.
But I think from if we look at it from a budget perspective, I think, it's something Timberlane should be very proud of. I mean, our dropout rate is great, this dropout prevention program and that thing. So I think, bang for the buck, this has been something that I think it's got a good return in terms of what our kids need. I would say it probably saves us from some outside placements as well, because we're able to do some flexible scheduling with kids that special ed students that we may have to send out. So I think it's something that Timberlane should be proud of, and it was something that did a great job. I mean, you've had a great dropout rate for many years. This isn't something new, and this is a real big part of that whole thing in terms of dropout prevention.
I think Sean had, unless you have something else for Sean,
No.
for Mr. Strange, I'm gonna let Mr. Strange go, and then Sean had a question and Jen had a question.
Mr. Woodworth, because that's just your slide, is, it says on here is that the total discipline referrals and stuff, that's just, my question is, what defines a discipline referral?
Generally, it's a teacher, but it could be a paraprofessional. Will actually fill out a form that describes the incident that took place, so that we have the information we need to then meet the student and kind of research what happened and make a conclusion about discipline.
That is the numbers that we have in there from 16, 17 year of 405 down to 218 the following year. Is a big drop, and I would be wondering, is that, you know, to put the cynicism in me, is to say, is that just due to unreporting of this? You know, that's what I would worry about.
I would too, and I think that one thing that we tried to get teachers to do, and it's something we talked about beginning of the year, we talk about tier 1 responsibilities, what teachers should be able to handle in their classroom. We've tried to make sure that they're not sending down things that are trivial. So, yeah, to your point, it's not all because kids have suddenly become better behaved, but because we're asking teachers to do a better job with handling some things in the class. And it's not so much a better job, but to own the job of some discipline. So rather than just kicking a kid out, they might give them a detention. You know, so things like that. So with low-level discipline, kids not pay attention, doesn't take a warning, things like that. We want the teachers to work that out through you know, their kind of respectful dialogue. If they have to have a consequence, know the level of consequence that they're going to be responsible for, and then turn it over if it goes beyond that. And that's when the referral takes place.
Okay, this would be my concern, and this is of course only my viewpoint, is that I would be concerned about a teacher that has a disciplinary issue that has now sort of been forced to deal with it more internally in her own or his own classroom. I would worry about the disruptiveness of that person that's being defined as this discipline referral causing more issues in the classroom, that other students are affected, and that's would be my concern.
Yeah, and certainly we talk about classroom management, we evaluate around that, we will give people support on that. The academic deans are a support resource for teachers who struggle and give us information about students that we need to be more involved with. So we recognize that that can be the case. You're right on, those are our concerns, exactly.
But there's,
so we have to pay attention to that.
Like another really important piece is about communication. So the referrals will go down if, when reported, the action that the administrator takes and is communicated back to the teacher quickly. If there's no action and they go on, that's when referrals start to pile up. People get frustrated, and probably more things get sent down. I think the part of it was responsiveness, and it's not perfect because you know, obviously, you know, you get better at it, and having administrators in rooms and visiting teachers and that sort of thing, and providing the kind of support they need. And everybody needs different support. I mean, if you were all teachers, some of you wouldn't want any, I'm handling my room, this is my room, I'll take care of all my stuff, and other people need more support than that. So it's a delicate balance of, you know, who needs what, making sure that people get what they need.
No, I agree, some teachers can handle, you know, more disruptive students than say new teachers, you know, having your veterans, you know, being able to have been through the process before. But what I would worry about is that the new teacher or somebody that's dealing with a disciplined, you know, child that's taking, you know, classes, that they're being discouraged from, you know, you need to go down to the principal's office to deal with this matter because you're being disruptive in my class and you're disenfranchising all the other students. What I would not want to see is that teacher feels that they can't do that. They have to deal with it themselves, and then everybody's in a bad situation. The students, the teacher.
It's a great.
The numbers look good on paper.
No, it's a great point. New teachers, that's the biggest fear. If I send students to the office, they're going to think that I'm not a good teacher. And so mentoring them to say, no, it's okay to ask for support when you need it. And obviously, your instructional strategies and how you manage the class and those sorts of things are all skills that you'll develop over time. But make sure that you feel comfortable to ask for help when you need it, and that you won't be judged on the fact that you need help, because it's the luck of the draw. You get classes and the dynamics of a class. One new student in a class changes the dynamics of a class and how you manage it. So I think they're doing a nice job, but.
And your points are good. I know that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do a better job of responding and getting back to teachers and understanding what's going on.
Well, the board made this something, the board said, we'd like you to, sharpen the lens on this, and so that's why it became formally a goal, and I think that's, you focused on getting better at it.
It's been a couple of years of working on it. And
That was the spring, it
yeah.
was a couple springs ago. A couple springs ago.
I think that first year teacher has a mentor, or second year teacher. You have somebody you can go to. And if you have those concerns, I'm afraid if I send kids out, I'm going to be judged. That mentor is an experienced and strong enough teacher to say, that's not the way we don't do that here. We don't do that kind of thing here. We support each other, and we'll get you the help you need. I can't believe an experienced teacher wouldn't, and I know at the high school they do
The
that.
teachers will say their best resource is the other teachers in the building. They're very tight as a group. They help each other with kids, and they help us too. We're very blessed with the way things are going with the people we've hired, and I think the growth we've made in this area.
Well, let's take another step. It's not just about the teachers. We have our TILA, which, Christy could speak to. That's the Timberlane Executive Leadership Academy. It's training the administrators to get better at providing the support that the teachers need. So through the evaluation process, through helping them, communicating how discipline's handled, all those sorts of things, they take that seriously, and that becomes a real formal professional development opportunity for the administrators, so they can provide the support to the teachers. And the teachers have helped define what they need. That's probably what's made those improvements over the last few years, I think, as a formalizing the process. So it's not just something we talk about, it's something that we actually take action.
Jen, you had a question then, Sheila?
Comment and a question. So just first on that slide about the year-end staff survey results, I just want to comment. So those are all on staff survey, and I think most of you know I have a middle school and a high school child, and I specifically ask a lot of middle school and high school kids, I say, about that block scheduling and how is it going, and there's definitely, I think the biggest complaint is it's a long time in a class, which is true, it is, and, you can't really get around that, but I think all of these positive things are all things that they've all said as well. The more time to plan and correct papers isn't really something a student would say, but they do appreciate having more time in the class with their teachers to plan and correct papers, as they go when they're working on projects and different assignments. So I just wanted to point out that I think a lot of the students feel the same way about that as the teachers.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna.
He's going to fix it now.
Our videographer has asked for a 45-second reboot. We've got some microphones not working, so could we just take a pause here where he reboots? Yes. All set, bud? Okay, we're back. Sheila, did you have a question for academics?
I have a question for Dawn, yes.
Go ahead.
What I want to know is this. The TTA came in here and still said discipline is a problem, right? Came in last spring. How often do you guys, administration at the high school, meeting with your teachers to say, okay, guys, how we doing? What's going on? How often does this happen?
With the TTA, we meet every month, and the TSSU, we meet every month. And it's something we talk about. We talk about at staff meetings.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So this is a constant moving target.
Yeah,
They're coming in saying,
there are
hey, we still
times,
need help.
there are weeks, there are days that bubble up
Full moons.
I mean, it's not a perfect science, but I will say that it's been better.
Communication's better.
Communication's much better.
That's what I'm looking for. I just want that missing piece.
Yeah.
Okay, something for the academic group, and then we'll work our way back to Jen. She's got an athletic question. So. Go ahead, Kim. And then Sarah.
Just, what is the chain here now? There are no deans, or there are very few deans, and have you restructured your, pathway for discipline? Because where's the teacher going and which teachers are going to?
Well, everybody still has somebody that they can go to. For instance, they can go to assistant principal at any time. So it's not like they're not allowed to come right to us with an issue.
Oh, I
So,
understand that, but.
We have Mark in the building, even though his job has changed, he still operates in support as a dean would. We also have Jen Mitchison, who's out right now, but that position, which we're going to be giving another teacher an opportunity to do some work with, to provide that type of support. So we are down a couple of positions, but we're still meeting that. We're still running the departments. Every department meeting is run by administrator. So it's that administrator who runs that department that it'd be the go-to person for the people in that department.
So the teachers all know who their go-to person is?
They all know who's running their meetings. And that said, some teachers never go for that type of support, and some invite it more regularly. So it's really an as-needed thing. It's not as demanding as it might seem, because, as I said, teachers use each other. They come to guidance, looking for some types of support. If they're talking about a kid they're concerned about, and you get support that way. Sometimes it's looking for strategies, and I've tried this, it's not working. And that would be the type of thing that they can go to a friend or to a dean. And we encourage them to go to a dean, but they might be preferring to go to a friend. It works either way.
But if you think about it, if you think of it in two ways, right? If I'm looking for help managing the class, it may be one administrator. If I'm looking for instructional strategies or teaching skills, I may go to a different administrator, right?
I get that, but don't you have a handbook that kind of tells students or teachers or parents where to go? Because if I'm a parent and I've got an issue with an English teacher, I'm not really sure who I go to, because now you just told me there are 2 STEM deans that are doing discipline, but I don't know if there's
Well,
any.
in English, you probably go to Jen Paholpick, because she's the dean for English. We have, what we have is Mark working in the same office with everybody, and that's all I'm trying to say, is that he can be a resource for teachers still, because he's in our building during the day. He's also working at the middle school. He can be a resource for the people in that building, too.
I think to Dr. Farrah's point, in terms of the level of discipline, it would be Tim Brown, it'd be Scott Strange, it'd be Heather, in terms of
They're
that
the
next level of
disciplinarians.
discipline.
Those are the assistant principals who would field issues that come out of the classroom. Tim would have the freshman and sophomore, and then we'd have between Scott and Heather, and the juniors and seniors.
Okay, so that's
So
what I'm
is
trying to.
that what you're trying to say?
It's by grade.
That's
It's
what I'm
by
trying to
grade.
That's by grade.
I thought you were looking
That's
for.
like very
I thought
nebulous to me.
I was answering
now.
a different question. I apologize.
Okay.
It's by grades, and a lot of teachers will come to the grade level administrator if they're having a concern with that grade level student. So we have found this year, we're having more teachers come to us because there's less deans, and, we're their go-to person when it comes to a grade level situation or a student. By grade, they know which administrator to go see.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense by grade, because then you know.
We know our students and we follow them throughout, yeah.
But we wouldn't turn them away if I said, no, that's a sophomore, you gotta go talk to Tim. Like, we would take it.
Scott, where are you?
And we work
There
together.
are other districts where they do set it up by grade.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's how we do
makes
it.
sense.
Well, we do it here, too.
And we follow them throughout, which is nice.
Yep.
So that you get to know them and their families as best as
Yeah,
we can.
and they loop along. You loop along, right?
We do, as as we get new
Sorry, I missed it.
administrators, it changes, but we try our best to follow them. So, yeah.
Sarah had a question.
Yes, so I noticed looking at goal 2 and 3, they work together. collaboratively. 2, focusing on increased student achievement, and 3, focusing on student learning and empowering teachers to develop and implement teaching strategies. I'm curious about the how, especially with goal number 2. Do you have specific professional development in mind to ensure that, to kind of focus on that achievement? Are you going to be sharing best practices? Like, do you have kind of a plan in place to to kind of move that forward? I mean, we've done so well with our APs, and our SATs have definitely been on the rise, but it was like a really broad goal. Like, everything's going to go up, which is great.
Been working with Christy Michaud and trying to empower teachers to work on the action plan steps. So that's one of our unwritten goals, is to share that development of strategies to meet these goals with the departments. So we're looking for teacher involvement in the solutions to the how. We'll provide professional development. We continue to have the coffees and conversations. We will, make sure that when we have teachers who are looking for a particular place to go to get a specific skill piece, whether it's a discipline piece or instructional strategy, that they have the ability to go to workshops to get that support. A lot of it is in-house solutions that we think that we have tremendous staff that can help each other, and we want them to prioritize those things and help us find the things that they need.
And through our data teams, right? So, Christy's probably chomping at the bit because she wants to hear data. So, they analyze data, and one of the trickiest things, because a lot of people, data-driven instruction. How do you change your instruction to deliver on an outcome? Anybody can look at data and say, like, well, we're really weak in this area. The real work is changing the instructional practices to obviously deliver different results. And I think that's really the work that Christy does with all of our teams, our data teams, and all of our buildings, not just at this level, but all 3 levels, middle school and elementary. So that's a big piece of it, too.
Yeah, and the younger teachers we talked about, we do have a mentoring program, and we train the mentors. So there's support where it's most needed with an individual who's trained to do it.
Excellent. No, I loved how, like I said, I loved how goal 2 and 3 kind of worked together and meshed towards that common goal, ultimately.
Other questions for our academics group before, go ahead.
A quick point in going on what Sean was saying, which I thought was a very interesting point by Ms. Woodworth, was the number of complaints coming down with block scheduling. Because I can, as you said, the less passing in the hall, there's suddenly with one teacher more for that period as opposed to seeing maybe the same teacher. You may have a class where you're having that constant daily conflict where you're now spreading it out. And not only that, if a teacher has a problem, this child's now being removed potentially for a 2-hour extended block as opposed to repeated. So I could see where that would have a lot of positive impact on reducing that number, and I just thought that was a great point. So
sometimes it's just a stepping away and catching your breath and
Yeah.
having a reset on the next odd day.
Yeah.
It builds patience.
Yes, it
You have
does.
time, that 90-minute block, I can spend a couple minutes, as
Right.
opposed to saying, I'm sending you to the office.
Right.
It's like-
Something else for academics before Jen gets her athletic question in. Sean?
I know it wasn't an athletics area, but I don't know exactly which area it was. But with regards to the one comment here, is that implement components of year 1 of the no bullying program. I'm very happy that that's being addressed at the high school. The question would be more to Dr. Metzler, is this same, I know this is a high school topic, but
Right.
is that being also addressed at the middle school and?
It's district-wide, and, through Charlie George, Georgie Boy, and I know, maybe you got that information just recently, he funded the 2nd year.
Oh,
He's
he
just
did?
incredible.
Oh,
He's
he
just
did.
incredible.
Wow.
Susan was here, yeah.
Oh, we didn't know
Another
that.
couple $100,000,
Wonderful.
just remarkable. So we feel really good about that. Part of my administrator's report, I'll talk a little bit about the next TPAF, because I think that's that kickoff piece.
That means now
Can I just-
that
So that program is
program,
paid for.
that
Funded.
first year was funded by him, is not being entirely funded, so there's zero cost impact.
Correct. She doesn't have to take the money out of her budget.
I wasn't here last meeting, but did we mention Citizen of the Year?
What?
Did we?
I don't know.
No.
The what?
Yes, just an idea.
Okay, let's stay on.
That's all
Well, it was
right.
just on,
Yeah, we kind of like to move this thing along anyway.
sorry.
Well,
Anything else
Would be till
for
midnight if you do it.
academics before I turn it over to Jen, who has an athletic question? Thank you, Mr. Woodworth. Okay, go ahead, Jen.
The athletic goal about, I think it's a great goal to try and encourage multi-sport athletes. But just a few questions on that. So we want to encourage more multi-sport athletes. Are we seeing a decline in the number of kids who are trying out for sports? And if we're encouraging more multi-sport athletes but not offering more sports, then are we going to be looking at a situation where we're cutting more students from participating in sports?
No, the topic, the hot topic, and I feel it's been probably about 8 to 10 years now, but the hot topic about specialization is something that is out there. It's been out there for a while. I know a lot of athletic directors and a lot of adults. And again, I preface this by saying everybody chooses what they want to do. If you want to do one sport, you want to do no sports, whatever you want to do is your choice. But one of the things that we've been talking about at the athletic director level is I really do think that parents, kids, and other adults just need to kind of hear the other side of the benefits of being more diverse, being in more different learning environments, different coaches, different muscle groups that you're using. I was actually with my trainer today, and she gave me an article, and she said, multi-sport athletes, they use different muscles. Year-round athletes are using the same muscles. That's a lot of strain on the tendons. That's a lot of strain on this and that. I just think that it's important for us to open up that dialogue with people and try to, again, it's an educational piece. People make their own decisions. I talk to kids all the time. Some of the things that I've gotten and out of the mouths of young people are pretty enlightening. And even relatives of my own have said, you know what, I'm just burnt out. I've been doing the same thing since I was 5 or 6 years old, and I'm just tired of it. It's not fun anymore, and I always tell people, you can wait till you be an adult when life isn't fun. Right now, you should try to have some fun. And the other piece too, we always talk about teamwork and different things like that, but it's a great life lesson when you are in a different role. Like I tell the kids, you might be the best player on that team.
That's right.
You might not be the best player on this team, but you still have to make a contribution. There's still a role for you to fulfill. This is another way. And I don't want to say too much, but I always tell people athletics is one of the last safe places to learn life lessons. It really is, if you really think about it. And you know what? You may not be the best player on this team. I don't want to play because I'm not the best player. But what can you offer? You're a great leader. You're a hard worker. You're a great teammate. You're smart. And the last thing, I tell the story all the time. I had a kid probably about 6 years ago. I was talking down at the middle school, and I was talking about playing multiple sports, talking about, do everything you can while you're young. Kid said, I'm a pretty good athlete, but I just play this sport. And I said, well, with all due respect, athletes can play multiple sports and do pretty well. Well, I do play other sports, but I just focus on this. And I said, well, that's your choice. I said, but you're going to run out of time someday, and you're really going to wish that you played a whole bunch of things if you're capable. Turned out that the kids playing college sports in the sport that they didn't even know they were good at. Listen, they're young kids. So I just think sometimes it's important for us, and I know as athletic directors, it's not so much about the numbers going down. I keep saying to kids, what do you do? They tell me, and then I go, okay, what else do you do? And I'm just trying to get them to stay. I tell my own son, don't come home after school. I don't care what you do, but better do something because the door's locked until about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So it's been a really great discussion that I've had with kids, adults, and it's just another education piece. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But there's some benefits here that and they're not always translating into wins and losses. They're benefits in shaping you.
But are we setting it up so that they can do it?
Absolutely.
Like at the middle school, I know in years past, we've sent 40 boys packing. Sorry, we don't have enough room for you, or we don't have enough coaches, or we don't.
Well, I think at the middle school, for example, and I say this all the time, we're a school that has an A and a B team. There's a lot of schools that only have an A team.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 14 years at a Massachusetts middle school as a teacher and as an administrator, and we set things up a little bit differently in Massachusetts because nobody likes to tell somebody they can't play. I think we need to do a little bit of a better job of offering more opportunities for the masses, because if I tell a 12-year-old, that they can't play something, there's a good chance that that 12-year-old is probably not going to try to play it again.
That's correct.
And that's a problem.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. So then when you, do we have these other opportunities? And
No,
are
I
we
have-
seeing the numbers down? Because in the middle school, when they're told no, they come to the high school, they don't even want to try out because they've already been told no.
One of the speeches that I give when I go down to the middle school and I see eyes light up. And by the way, we need to offer more opportunities. They don't even have to be team opportunities.
Mhm.
We need to offer more opportunities, period.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always say to the kids when I'm there, I explain to them that middle school is that place where, the kid that's the tallest isn't always the tallest when they get to high school.
Right.
The kid that was the smallest, like my son was, and I always tell him that, all of a sudden is now the tallest one in our house because he sprouted up. And, and I tell them that if you didn't make a middle school team, that doesn't mean you're not gonna make a high school team. And we have this long conversation, and we've seen the benefits, because when you talk to a kid and you explain things like that, I love watching them light up. Kids light up. They wanna hear something that they can hold on to. Go back to your original thing about the middle school, and we will be talking more about this, about adding more opportunities, and it doesn't always have to translate into being a travel team.
I think that happened this year with the boys' middle school stuff.
Right. Listen, we want them out there. We want them moving. We want them, feeling like they belong. And that's all they want to, especially at that age. I mean,
But Angelo, I think our frustration in the past, because we've wanted to start an intramural program, so we have this competitive program that we wanted to start. And every time we reached out, because I would make them reach out.
I did.
Two problems, like there wouldn't be a lot of interest, because all the kids were either doing it here or doing it somewhere else. But it was gym time, because a lot of times it's about basketball, some of those sports where we just
Need
don't
that
have,
space,
we don't have the field or the space. So it wasn't even about the coaches. And I kept saying, we need
Yeah.
intramurals, and then it was like off-season, can we have basketball in the spring? And then we just wouldn't get a
Well, we
critical
were
mass of
trying,
kids
we
to
were
do
trying to
it.
think outside the box a little bit, and we were trying to look at where there's, I don't wanna say dead time, but that kind of lag time. And again, feeding into the argument of stay here, to the kids. You got that spot between fall and winter, or between winter and spring, and there is some availability. So we were trying, and we weren't getting the response. But I still think that it doesn't mean we won't. I think we just gotta kind of get a little more creative and think of better ways.
And Angelo, this is a good time to bring this up. And in some discussions with the company, it's called Right at School, and it's no cost to the district, and they provide before and after school programs. So at some point in the near future, we're gonna send out some sort of survey with all the different opportunities that we may be able to offer, K through probably 8. High school is pretty much different, and see what the needs are. Will people think about, people are picking their children up and bringing them somewhere else. If we could have those same activities right in each elementary school and our middle school, would you let it happen, their name, right at school? It ends up being about $4 to $6 an hour. So if it was 10 hours a week, you're looking at about $60 a week, or $40 a week, depending on what the market value is in this particular region. It isn't anywhere else in New Hampshire, and I don't think anywhere at least not in the north of Boston. But we're in some early discussions with them to see if we can expand those opportunities. So that survey will be the next step, just to see what the need is, and then we would come to you and say, like, this is what we have, and that's both districts, really, so.
Okay.
Other questions for Angelo? Any other questions for our high school team that's here? If not, thank you so much, gentlemen and lady. Thank you very much. Nice presentation. The next bit of business on our agenda is the CIP report. You have a copy of it in your folder. Because of the lateness of the hour, I'll listen to suggestions how you want to approach this. Do you want to take this home and study it and shoot me questions? I was the chair of CIP. I have facilities and operations here, and I have Mr. Dowd here. I did not request Mr. Henderson come, but we could ask him to come next time if you wanted to speak about those technology pieces. This is just the summary for the 1920 budget year coming up. I had them break it down. You notice at the bottom, we've had some discussion about technology being perhaps not such a capital expense, but I wanted you to see about 349,000 of the capital projects, losing that word loosely, is 350,000 is for technology, and then the 1.6, which is approximately what we offered last year and approximately what we offered the first year. This is the third year of the program. And I'll tell you that somebody asked me, are there any new projects on here? The couple that are new that just stand out to me right off the bat are way at the bottom of the list. MS is MS is the school, so they're by school. Middle school recreation area, that's a new project that was requested. And middle school classroom furniture, that was a new project recommended. And I believe, I've double-checked this a couple of times now, everything else on here that are what I call district facilities, furniture, grounds, capital things, are things that were already in the program or slid over because we didn't do them last year, or slid over 2 years because we didn't do them the first year. They've been moved along. I don't think there's anything else that's absolutely new here. So I would ask you to, what would be your pleasure? Take this home and look at it. I know there's a couple things on here we probably want to speak to specifically. Maybe writing a warrant article for a couple of these things. We had discussed that briefly. Kim?
I think initially with the CIP committee, typically we're looking at about $1 million a year in capital expenses, excluding technology. So I think we're kind of looking to probably remove, this would be my feeling, about $500,000 from this. Whether that be taking money out and moving it to a warrant, say the PAC wall, or trying to get some money out of the capital reserve fund that's well over $1 million now. So I think when you're taking a look at this, that's what you want to take a look at. I mean, I do have a couple questions that are really quick that maybe I can just throw out there right now and then we can answer later.
Yeah, I do want to thank the people that have served on the committee. Kim's been with us from the beginning. Sean's been with us this year. Brian, Lee, the people that worked from the community. It's the only school board committee that we have where we have welcomed the public to it. We have 4 reps. One from each of the communities, because when we first formed this committee, we had never done a capital improvement plan before. We wanted people from communities that had done capital improvement, had been either instrumental in master planning, et cetera, for their communities. So we asked each Board of Selectmen to choose someone. Atkinson chose Jim Paul. He's been with us a couple of years. Plastow chose John Sherman. He's been with us from the beginning. Sean stepped in and helped us out. Steve Brown has been with us this year. Cindy Bucco had been with us. So we've had people that have had some experience in municipal planning as well help us with this. So I wanted to make sure I publicly thank those people for coming here in the middle of the summer and being here with us on the number of nights. Plus our administrative staff, Tom and Ken and Jeff, for being with us. So, anyone have specific questions other than that? I'm going to let Kim make her suggestions. I think they're similar to what I would suggest. So general questions to start with before we start. Go ahead, Sheila.
Do you ever go back to the people who put in these requests and ask them if they still want them?
Yes. In fact, Mr. Dowd, and you want to speak to that, Tom?
I can. So the application that's issued to the schools can be a new project, or it can be to remove a project, or to change a project.
Okay.
So that application that's given out yearly would cover, so if it's a new administrator and they don't need the project anymore, then they would recommend
We did remove a few. They did.
And I think when
The
Mr.
committee
Flo-
doesn't remove them. The person who put it in said, yeah,
Exactly.
you know, I'm a new principal now. The old principal wanted this. I'd like this instead, or I don't want that project. So yes, thank you. There, yeah.
It's incumbent upon that administrator to say, oh, yeah, I had this request out there.
Absolutely.
It's not like we revisit it and say, oh, do you still want
No,
this?
the committee doesn't.
Right.
The committee expects Tom and Jeff and the building principals to kind of look at what they requested before, but they're refreshed. They get oh yeah, I remember I did that one.
Okay.
So
That's
thank you
okay.
for that one, yeah. Another general question, Jen.
I see cabinets on here, and it just made me just want to.
Which cabinets? Tell me.
No,
where-
well, it's not really related to these. It's just the high school science. That's this year happening?
Correct.
Yes,
Yes,
that's-
in the current year we're operating in now, that's one of the
Okay.
projects we were looking to tackle. I think
That's
it's
smart.
the board approved that project back in the summer, and I informed that we didn't have the lead time to get it done before school.
I just
So
want to make
we're
sure that's
looking
still
at a
happening.
possible Christmas break, but this year's very short, the short window that we have with staff in the building. So will be done this year. So we're working with manufacturers now to kind of get a good spec put together.
And then high school access road, main campus, CFACS00004, what's that?
That is related to some pre-engineering that would be involved with a possible access road to the campus.
From the back of the property.
Yeah, specifically, we've always discussed if I guess the old drive-in site that's owned by the Demoulas family were to get developed, so we would like to have documents in hand, some pre-engineering done to see if we could have a access road included in that, if that project ever comes to fruition.
And then I see some parking, paving, but nothing for the high school.
Yeah.
High school's
Can we
totally
make
paved.
that happen?
Sandown Central.
Yeah, no, as of right now,
It's all
though.
money.
Not
You
what
can
the
add to it.
CIP is.
Now you can cut it.
No, I mean, is it somewhere in
In
the
and out,
CIP?
it may
It may
be
be
in
in
like
an-
Oh, yeah,
an
sure.
In
or
a-
something.
In an out
It's
year, it
probably
could
in
be
there.
next year and next year's
If I
CIP.
just speak to it though, is that I believe
Did
that
some paving.
it was a CIP project to
Right.
repave
Right.
the parking lot in the current footprint that we're in, right? So,
No, that's not what she's looking for. She wants additional spaces.
yeah, the garage is not, the parking
That's
garage is
not-
not in the CIP.
Well, no,
That is not
that-
in this CIP
That
request.
needs to go in with the whole strategic plan and the
Yeah.
look at the campus. That's what we can't, we
Right.
cannot
There's no
spend the money looking at
Yep.
doing one thing without everything at this point.
Any other general questions before we look at specific projects that perhaps we want to move? Go ahead, Sheila, if you,
Mine was specific.
okay.
Question.
Kim, did you want to, go ahead, Sheila, let's let Sheila, go ahead, which one?
The pack wall, the big one. You got an estimate for this, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So you do have this estimate and this is the exact,
Yeah, I believe it was, I don't know, Kathy, was that provided in the packet recently? I know it was in the past.
Yeah, we had it at the CIP, I think we did, didn't we?
There was,
It's not in the packet. It's
Happy
a
to
document
provide.
that you did give for future discussion when it came time to discuss warrant
Okay.
articles. That we
Yeah,
would
so-
have that document ready
okay,
for that. Mhm.
great.
So we
That was where I was going.
We had the architecture firm that designed the pack come out, and they did some preliminary investigation on that for us. And they were generous to do it at no cost, and also did some estimating with some people in the field to give us a pretty good estimate that we could budget for.
Kim, did you want to go, or Brian?
If you're, are you gonna speak more to the pack wall?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Let Brian speak to the walls, instead of all three of us.
So, but the thing is, Tom, no, because last year this was 80 and 90,000, because it was a different, no, I think it was a different even product.
I think the scope was a little different as well, and that 89 to that 90,000 was a previous employee, the previous facilities director's plan was to use in-house labor to replace that siding as well. So that's where you see such a big difference in the price. That 90,000 was strictly for material and using the same material that's on the pack currently.
Okay.
Brian, would it be helpful, because I think people are wondering, I mean, not everybody, it depends how closely you've been following this, why we need to do something like this on a building that's relatively new, and why it's not under warranty, right? Is that?
Well, I think we already had that
Yeah,
discussion.
we beat-
Yeah, we've had that discussion.
We beat that up last
And
year.
frankly, that number that we started with was 3 years ago when we did the original CIP, and he was talking about one wall, and he was talking about in-house people. And we didn't do anything, and we didn't do anything, and now here we are, and I believe it didn't heal itself.
But I don't think it
Can't
was,
use
I don't think it
in-house
was,
people now.
but I don't think it was deferred maintenance, right? This is different, this is a different project, right? In terms of?
Different scope.
Different scope,
Yeah.
correct.
Same
Similar
building.
project, different scope, okay.
Same problem,
Yeah,
with the
same
scope,
problem.
the scope
It's
has
bigger.
changed. yeah.
So, but the 425,000, is that a different product that's on that existing building?
Yeah, so that is a different product. So we had a metal paneling system, metal cladding system specified rather than the cement board that's been the issue of having premature failure. So as we look at material selection for these types of projects now, we're looking for at least 25, 30 years out of an exterior wall system. So we would look at something more rigid like a metal paneling system.
So when you and I chatted, I think at the, one of these meetings, you lose track of these meetings, CIP, facilities meetings, whatever they are. Aren't there other options, if you will? Like, this is a option, whether it's the best or.
Sure.
And I think we should know all the options, but obviously the product should be at least a 25-year, preferably more than 20.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to be talking about products on a public building that are only a 25-year product for something like sheathing, siding. Should be double that, you would think.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some more information. So that quote that I provided before was $425,000. That was to replace it with a steel product, metal product on the outside of the building. That was about $12 a square foot. And then the other costs involved with that were some of the soft costs were mobilization and design and whatnot. Masonry product would be $25 to $30 a square foot, as I think I told you. We're looking at a total of 17,000 square feet of wall that we have to replace. So that's the takeoff that I took from our CAD drawings.
I understand saying so much a square foot, but I think we should be looking at a couple of different options. It doesn't make sense to cheap out on it. But I think this particular project will be tapping the capital reserve. So to Kim's point, when you take this, we'll round it, $2 million of CIP stuff.
Yep.
And you have technology of 350, and your other stuff is $1.6 million. When you back out the 400 and change for the pack, now the board gets to decide of that $1.2 million, how much of that we want to cut. Because when I look at this whole thing, the $1.6 million of non-technology, I think the pack to protect our the jewels, if you will, of the district, in that with the combination of the dollar amount, probably is separate to. We should probably tap the capital reserve. That's what I was thinking.
So that's what I was thinking too, that we would, I'd love a better number than that, but, I mean, I don't have any experience with what products, so I'm relying on you guys to get the best product, and I want the best bang for our buck here too, not have it fall apart. To remove that project from the CIP list and prepare a special warrant article to remove whatever the cost is, $375, $450, whatever, from the capital reserve money and put it on the warrant. The problem with putting it on the warrant is, if it fails, we're gonna be sitting here, so understand that. But then that brings the bottom line of the CIP down to rough cut numbers, let's say 1.2.
And we had what, $500,000 in capital in our budget last year?
Put 500, they asked for 1 point something.
Yeah, but
and
what's in the operating budget, right? It was $500,000, I think.
500,000.
So.
And under certain
use
situations,
some
that
of
might
it.
be risky, but I don't find it as risky, because I don't see us being able to fit this into
A
the budget that we're preparing.
Right.
That big number, the
No.
way it
No
is.
question.
And we have that money.
So we wouldn't be able to do it unless we did it this way anyway.
Right.
We wouldn't do it next year anyway, because it wouldn't be in the budget.
Right. Jen?
So it would go, so if it went on the warrant article, it would be with, we wouldn't be asking to raise and appropriate that
That's the word you still use, but you you have to raise and appropriate, but it comes out of the capital reserve.
So I think if that's clear, that it's not gonna be an additional tax impact to the residents, and hopefully we can get out there and communicate that.
Right.
And you will say that right on the warrant.
We did say that.
I
you
still
know,
think you need
tax
to really
impact.
communicate it well, because people see that dollar and they're like,
Right.
no.
They see the initial dollar sign, they don't bother to go and look at tax impact.
But let's be honest, though, it's no free lunch. This is
Right.
money that the voters
Already-
have
But they've
given
already-
us to put in trust.
But they've
and
already-
it's-
Yep.
So they've already paid for it. We're
Right,
pulling
so it's
out-
been
asking
sitting
them to
there,
use it.
gaining
that
very
purpose.
little interest, very little interest.
Savings.
We might-
Getting better.
It's for that purpose, though.
So, but it's for this purpose, it's
Oh,
for
correct, yes.
capital needs.
And if it is,
Purchasing
if it
land,
is
et
gonna
cetera.
go on a warrant, I mean, if we're looking at, a proposed level budget, I think that will be helpful in getting something like this in the teacher's contracts passed by the voters.
One question
Sean?
is regards to, for the, relative to the PAC, the duration of that, say, construction project. What's the time frame? Is this something that can be started at the start of the summer period and end by school year, or is this gonna be a 6-month project?
I mean, with the, such a high cost, I would recommend, and with it being the envelope of the building, design services to be able to design the tie-ins to the roof and all of that. So I would propose that this year, if we wanted to get it done during the summer of 19, that we would do that design work in this current year, so we could hit the ground running July 1st, if by chance that passed.
Okay.
Sheila?
Is that what you were asking, the timeline of the project?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's helpful. I'm looking at it as that, you know, when they're gonna have the construction crews here, from start to finish, what is that estimated time? You know, because in the summer, it's not gonna disrupt the student flow, but.
I would prefer to do work like that over the summer.
Well, yeah,
right?
that's
I mean,
ideal, but if it
that's
takes them
ideal.
6 months, I don't care where you fit it, you're never, it's always gonna
I don't think
encompass-
we're gonna be anywhere near 6 months.
Well, I don't know, I don't know the
think
scope of
you-
this project.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I know the
that's-
scope, but it's not the
replacing
duration of
On the
it.
outside, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Sheila?
So are you looking for an additional monies on top of this 425 for a design too?
No, 425 included
Is that
that,
including the
that
design? That's
included the
including
design in the estimate I gave you, but I would say that to get it done in the summer of 19, we would have to get going on the design this current fiscal year.
Okay.
Well, we're not gonna know that till
Till
it gets
March.
voted on.
Right.
March.
Till March,
Yeah,
but still got a couple of,
still have a couple of months.
No, I just wanted to make sure that this,
No,
this
not asking
actual
for
dollar
more.
figure is it. Okay.
so
But
what,
it's all dependent on materials too, right? So as
No,
I
I
explained
understand that. I'm
before,
just-
that we're carrying in that estimate $11 to $12 a square foot for metal paneling versus the 25 to 30 that you would spend on masonry, right?
I just wanna make sure the design works in that number somewhere. That's all.
It was if we go with the metal paneling system. If
Oh,
425 would cover all of that if it was
Metal, yeah.
masonry.
I can't imagine there's a lot of design work
it's not a,
on metal to replace that. You know, now I can
But
see
he's saying
design work if,
Right.
like I was saying, if you're gonna spend a lot of money, you know, they start talking crazy money, brick the thing.
Yeah. I mean, just
Give me
as
a real brick
as-
building for the top
as-
dollar.
As a rule of thumb, I like to use, you know, anything above $100,000 for a major project to bring in design services, just to make sure we are covered under warranties, we're able to competitively bid it, and we have a good specification to put out on the street.
We should have warranties though, with or without a design.
Yeah.
As we,
Oh, no, all I can do is advise you and say that
Right,
that's what
I
I would
mean,
recommend, and say that, you know, I would
just-
trust somebody's architectural and engineering stamp
Well,
on
we
the
had that.
drawings versus just
You had
Timberland
design.
Regional School District.
The people you talked to were architects, you had that design work. Not you, the district had that design work a lot, 18 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, well,
And if we chose, no one in this room was around then, I guess when problems started happening 10 years later, and all of a sudden, I can't explain why people sat back and didn't do anything when you had legit contractors and engineers and architects that were,
and the product was still on
yeah.
the market.
I just don't, I don't know what happened, something slipped through the cracks.
Other thoughts on any of this? Yes, Kim?
just two quick things on technology, because I know Ken's not here. The Chromebooks initially were 100,000, they're up to 115 now. Maybe we can get an answer as to why that number jumped up when clearly the number of students is lower. And then I also.
Get that answered.
Yeah, huh?
We can get that answered.
Yeah, and then the other one is on, I'd like to see what the replacement schedule is on the laptops.
Yep.
Then, next thing, moving down to the Pollard stage, area ADA compliant. I think that should come out. I think Sandown Central installation of the classroom observation windows should come out.
Okay, hang on.
I'm just running things, I mean,
I'm just trying to make
we're
little
not-
marks next to those that you're saying, what the stage at.
Pollard.
Okay, yep. On.
I think that for the district HVAC upgrade study installs, again, till we have a facilities plan and we know what we're gonna do, that comes out. I'm not interested in any standalone studies. And Sandown Central, paving additional parking spaces, unless the number of people in that school has increased dramatically. I mean, there's hardly anybody in that school. I just can't imagine why we need so many parking spaces over there. I've been there, there's plenty of parking spaces.
Not during the
I
day.
think if you were.
Not during the day.
No, they're
I've been
parking,
there
they're
during the
parking in a
day.
dirty area.
Laptops.
Yeah.
So,
When the school's in session, as you come in, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, as you're coming in, there's a parking lot, there's parking spaces that abut a neighbor along the gate, and that's just all dirt area.
well, the issue is that it's dirt.
It's dirt, it's not paved,
Yeah.
it's the roads during rain.
But there are spaces, it just needs,
Yeah.
it needs paving over it.
You talking north or central?
Central.
See if you can get it.
I got it.
I've asked Dr. Metzler just to see if he could text Ken and see if he's
Well,
available.
we don't need to do that, I mean, I know we wanna
Well,
move
the
on.
quick one on the Chromebooks, because that's like a big jump, right? From what
It
I
isn't,
wanted.
it's up
It,
$15,000 more.
He added some for elementary schools, and they have touch screens, so they're a little slightly more expensive.
Oh, yeah, he told us that at the meeting, Kim.
Why did we add them in the elementary school?
He's got them in the elementary school. This is Chromebooks for there are some in
There's already some in.
each elementary school, it's just not 6th and 9th graders who get them. So he did talk,
I
I've
know we
forgotten
talked
that.
about it, I
A
couldn't
little more
remember.
rugged product there.
He's also talking about less laptops and more Chromebooks.
That's right.
Yeah, less laptops, more Chromebooks, but she asked, what's the plan for the,
Replacement schedule.
ongoing
What's the
schedule?
replacement? So you've got 40,000 for laptops, so what are you
Yeah,
replacing?
yeah, that might be a little bit more length, and it probably goes involved in the tech plan too, the 5-year tech plan.
All right.
So what number are we shooting for here, I guess? Brian suggested that as he went for a cookie.
I think a
Are
million.
we shooting for about $1 million? Are we shooting for, that's what Kim says, yes. So what about the rest of you? Sheila?
I agree with Kim, I wanna take out the Sandown Central observation windows.
Okay.
Those observation windows came about during the consolidation. Beth Rincon wanted those windows. And when I took the tour the other night, Tom was with me, Mrs. Marino is begging for more playground equipment over there.
Okay, but she wasn't begging for windows.
She was not begging for windows.
Okay.
She could have cared less about her windows
Okay,
at this
all right,
point.
all
She
right.
needs playground equipment.
Other things? Sarah?
I just wanted clarification on the Pollard School stage area. What do you need to do to make it ADA compliant? I mean, I remember it hasn't changed much since I was there in the 80s. I don't think it's changed at all.
You can't get up,
So are you gonna
You
add a
can't get
ramp? Are there,
No,
like,
we don't have enough space to add
Yeah,
a
this-
ramp, so, otherwise we'd be halfway into the cafeteria, I think, with the amount of
Exactly, so I'm trying
switchbacks.
to figure out what you're gonna do.
So that would be a handicap lift.
Oh,
So,
lift,
yeah, and
okay.
that would be considered an elevator that we'd still have to get inspected yearly, similar to what Atkinson Academy has on back.
Okay, all right, okay.
Has
I
where?
mean,
And they have the elevator towards it's in the back of the building.
That's next to the old building, yes, the lift, yes. I didn't realize it was called an elevator.
We have to consider an elevator because we still have to get it inspected by the state, all the same procedures, so.
No, I think that's important, because the stage is still used for performances,
The other thing,
you
sure.
know. and
Right,
to
they
be
use
able to
that all
make
the
it,
time.
Yeah, inclusive, especially where we have the TLC there, be able to get those students that need to, participate with their classmates. I think it's important.
Does Danville Elementary has a stage, is that ADA compliant?
Yeah, Danville actually has a ramp that leads to the stage.
I think it's one step, so I think it's easy to implement.
Yeah, it's like 1.5 steps, so you don't need the railing
Bigger,
either.
it's bigger.
This is like,
And it showed,
it's like
this
4 or
little-
5 steps.
Yeah.
Narrow,
Narrow.
steep steps up the side of the stage.
I think
The
it's-
stage is narrow anyway.
Yeah, that's really important.
So if you take out that 425
Right.
and the 125, that's 550. So you're already, what, $1.1 million.
So, right, so I had it at $1.2 million. Kim's suggesting we take out, if you took out the stage, and hopefully that might be something we could do if we do some strategic planning and do some building upgrades. Take out the observation window.
Another $100,000.
Can I ask
Take
a
out the
question about one more
study
item?
for the HV. These are the things that Kim has suggested. And the additional parking, how much does that add up to more, Kim?
I didn't add all those
Would you add that up for me?
Well, Kim's adding, can I ask a question? What is a middle school recreation area?
Mr. Flynn approached me as we were kind of finalizing the CIP this year, right, and this was a new project.
Is that lounge area he was talking about on that tour?
This is actually outside. So right now, the middle school students are, get their little recreation time after lunch. And everybody seems to congregate in the driveway, right?
Yep.
Big safety concern
Yep.
of mine walking through is that we have kids playing in the driveway. And also to add more hard surface play area for them as well. So in the winter, you can imagine if we can plow and just give them a space, whether it's
Was it
basketball
that
courts.
basketball court area?
It's
over
really
there in the-
expanding that with
Making
paving,
that bigger.
installing security bollards to prevent somebody from veering off the road and driving through, and installing new basketball hoops to go with that as well.
Okay.
Oh, and a wall ball, I'm sorry, similar to what has been recently installed at one of the Plastow recreation fields. Place where kids can practice lacrosse, play wall ball, so they're not throwing it against the building.
In
This
front of
would be-
cars.
Correct.
And folding walls at the middle school? That,
I thought we took that out.
didn't they have for 60,000?
Nope, that's, was left in there.
What is that?
Oh, in the 1600 wing, he wanted to take some of those,
There's
he
movable
wanted to make
partitions.
it so you could open up those classrooms on the corner
Correct.
to have a
Bigger
bigger
rooms.
space. 1600 is the 8th grade wing, I believe. They have no, like, what I call common space, where they could have a team of 95 to 100 kids have a meeting. They don't have any place to do that. You can't ask the library to give up space or the gym or whatever.
So-
So he wants to make those classrooms more
So take
open
down
them
the walls and put
open
in
them up
folding walls.
and be able to close them and open them. But the one team would be probably in those, if it's 3 rooms, they'd have that core team be in those 3 rooms. So they would be able to do more team-type things. That was one of Mr. Flynn's ideas.
So we are all in agreement that the PAC is a warrant article on
Yeah,
its
I didn't hear anyone
standalone,
objecting that we would.
out of the capital reserve?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll work on getting the template of that ready with Kathy, based on other things we've written, and bring that back for us to discuss some more. We've still got time to work on warrant articles. Are we in agreement to take some of these things that Kim has suggested out? Are there other things you'd like to take out?
I really
I'm
don't
here,
want
Sarah
that
doesn't want to take out the
stage.
stage.
I don't wanna take out the additional parking at Central. I think that's a safety issue.
I don't want to take out the stage either, because this is the 3rd year we've moved it along.
Well, that's 170,000 between the two of those, then I say you take out the classroom furniture at the middle school, that's 60.
So there hasn't been any classroom furniture upgrades at the middle school. He wants these flexible classrooms where there are balls to sit on, or tall desks and short desks, and that whole flexible seating thing is now one of the newer things we're doing educationally. Yes, of course, sir.
And I may pay for it tomorrow, but in just many talks with Mr. Flynn and seeing where his priorities are, I'm almost confident he would prefer the furniture over the folding walls. If the two of them were up for.
So what's the folding wall one?
60.
60,000.
So we'd rather have
I
furniture?
was wondering how
Yeah.
important that
For the
folding
past
was.
few years, I know on the building facility tours, he's made it a priority to show the good things they're doing with the flexible seating options.
Yeah.
Just talking to him, I know it's a big passion of his.
Well, let's take out the walls then and give him the furniture that is the newer stuff.
Can you speak to the art cabinets and sinks? Are those?
Art cabinets and sinks is at Sandown
Central.
Central.
Yes. So that's beyond just the art room, because I think when Ms. Lowe's was walking around on the facility tours, we were both saying this is a lot of money just for the art cabinets, because there's only 8 of them. That's removing all of the cabinets and sinks and replacing them in the building. They date back probably to the
To the
80s.
beginning of the school.
Those are the ones that are avocado, right?
Correct.
Well,
So
they're-
that'd be
yeah, they're
70s.
funky grades.
Bell bottoms.
The biggest problem is that they're too tall.
Yeah, they're too high, right? Yeah.
They're too high, so you have like, Roomba steps in front of the sinks, so that the little ones can,
Which can be
Get
a
up to wash their hands.
trip and fall hazard.
so
and-
that's kind of the issue with that.
Then, aside from just the age group too, we also run into that ADA compliance too, with the height, right? So,
But that was, it's not just the outlet, it's every single
So
class.
with Sandown's population, as we know now, being quite high, are we ever gonna be looking to reconfiguring those age groups? And would we be in a situation where we wouldn't want those sinks too low?
Mm-hmm.
You think so? You think that's a yes?
I think that is a yes. I mean, we have several apartment developments that have gone in and are starting to get populated. We have a whole, another large development that's gonna get approved and start in 19.
Yeah,
It would just,
24 apartments.
I mean, it sounds like it needs to be done, but I would hate to see spending that kind of money and
They
then.
won't have little kids, they won't have kindergartens that go there, or
Oh, I'm not saying that, but
preschoolers?
they're also gonna have 3rd and 4th graders. And we're getting tight in space at North,
Oh, we're really tight in space in North.
you know, so who knows what happens with reconfiguring where kids are going to school.
But do you take that out and wait and see if we put that in the strategic plan facility needs?
I'm almost on board with saying that and the soundproofing at the cafe at North.
Yeah, that's a shame, though.
I know, it is, it's horrible, the echo's horrible, and the other part of me says if we're trying to meet a number, you know, I think that's one of the ones that has some play in
I
it.
take out the 2 floor burnishes. I take out things that have nothing to do with kids. And the
Yeah.
floors being, and I love that Zamboni, don't get me wrong, it's a fun machine, but that would save us 30,000. And that would give would give somebody something else. I'd rather do things that have something to do with kids having better access, either playground, or furniture, or rec area,
Well,
ADA compliant stuff.
You don't need, if you take out the walls at 60, the design of the HVAC at 125, the observation window at 15, and the art cabinets at 50, that brings another 250 out, and if you pull out technology, is 349 in the pack wall, that's $1 million.
But we're not gonna do any technology?
No.
She's just saying-
Technology gets
Oh,
into
you're
the regular
saying
budget.
from the 1.9, I was subtracting it off of 1.6, so, okay.
Well, off of,
And you remember that debate early on in the CIP process about replacement equipment?
Right.
Being in the CIP, and really it should be in the,
but it meets the threshold for being in the CIP, so.
Right.
So if we
So-
took out the walls, the movable walls, the design of the HVAC, the observation windows, and the art cabinets, and pulled the pack walls, we would be right at about $1 million without technology.
Okay. All right, so let's reconsider that. So it looks like we got parking back in at Sandown Central, Lee's wanting that. We got Sarah's, stuff at Pollard, the stage back in. What do you think, gang?
So which is fine, so you're at the million you want to be at, but so
Right.
You're 500 more than you were last year.
Correct.
I think we really need to look at this and a lot of it in its totality. I mean, we know that next year, our bond payment is going to be half of what it is currently this year.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, I looked at the bond payment schedule.
You have half the payments because we don't make our interest payment in the spring, but we still have our full
And we
principal
sent that
payment
along to you, yeah.
We do.
in August.
1.67, isn't it?
So there's gonna be two payments of roughly 800,000 each?
Nope.
One
payment.
I thought we had two payments in that.
We have two payments annually, but because we'll be paying it off, we'll only have one payment.
In August of,
And it's around 1.6 million,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
that's what you said to us.
We make two payments annually. Typically, it's the principal in August, and then in the spring, it's an interest payment. So because we'll be paying that principal in August, we have no further payments.
All right, so that when it's gonna be a 1.6 billion, excuse me.
Nice new car.
Hate to see that tax bill. So it's 1.6 million for the August payment?
Correct.
And then the spring payment will be non-existent,
None.
which is, because you paid it off.
Final payment, right?
Final payment is August 2/19.
I'd love it if we paid them, but I'm not gonna pay them in the spring.
Well,
Yeah.
because we've already paid it, but it's,
That's right.
but it's 1.6 million is the payment,
Correct.
though.
Right.
So then it's gonna be the full amount for the year then.
Half the
But
payments
this
only
year-
make one payment, but it's
Oh my God,
most of
we're
the
only
amount.
paying 1.6 and it's due in August, correct,
Right.
Mr.
Well-
Dowd?
So how much do we pay now every year?
That was Sean's question.
That's the interest. What are we saving in
It's
interest
close,
that we're
it's
putting
close
out
to
this
2
year?
million right now with principal and interest, isn't it?
No, it's less than that.
$1.8 million, wasn't it $1.8 million last year, I think?
It's in the $1.8 million range because of the fact that it declines every year.
Yep.
It's significantly less in interest.
It's $1.8 million last year,
So
I think.
the whole premise that I thought it was our payment, because I know we had one payment, I just didn't know.
It was twice as much.
Full yearly payment. I thought it was linearized.
All right, let's go back to this. Yes, Lee?
Two questions, Tom, on the burnishers, how badly are they needed? I mean, can we get by another year? And what about the additional lighting? I know I'm advocating for the parking spaces, the additional parking lot lighting at Sandown.
Right, yeah, I think that has to go in tandem with
Okay.
the additional parking spaces, because when we put the additional parking at Sandown North, we didn't have the lighting.
Yeah.
And then we just completed that this summer. It's best if you're ripping up the road, paving, let's get the conduit underneath and pave it. So,
LED or incandescent? The lighting, what's targeted to be in there?
You can take out this one.
Everything new that we install
We're not putting
is
the
LED
light
going forward.
I agree.
So what was just put in at Sandown North, LED fixtures. When we have to replace a fixture in the school, it's an LED fixture.
Okay, good.
We're not putting in fluorescent
Yeah.
ballast anymore, everything
Yeah,
is LED.
basically, yeah.
So, I mean, knowing that, I'd be in favor of the 30,000 for the burnishers, take those out, if we can get another year out of the ones we have.
I found another 10 we can take out, the access road. We've left that as a placeholder. Right, so remove that, there's another 10.
And
So-
we in favor of the burnishers?
All right, so take the burnishers out. All right, I'm making some marks now. Both burnishers out. Let's go down the list. The pack walls as a capital reserve warrant article. The folding walls out. Folding walls out. The stage is in.
Art cabinets and sinks.
Art cabinets and sinks are
Out.
out. Okay. The observation windows are out. The district upgrades for this HVAC is out. It's a shame, but hopefully we'll catch back up around. The parking lot stays in.
The access roads too?
Oh, the access road, sorry, I'm sorry. Where's access road? I had.
Right below.
Oh, yeah, duh. Access road is out. Atkinson Academy stays in. Parking lot lighting stays in. Additional parking, paving stays in, playground equipment stays in, rec area stays in, classroom equipment stays in, playground equipment at Sandown North stays in.
Well, at 934, facilities, fixtures, grounds only.
What?
934,000 for subtotal of facilities, fixtures, grounds only, based on what you took out just now.
What is it?
934?
934.
Yeah.
934,000.
There you go.
How's that?
Awesome.
Good for now.
Good.
Good for now? I'll start.
Again, when the whole budget comes.
Right.
in.
I'll look at the, I'll reconfigure this. I want to take this to the committee wants me to take this to the budget committee. Do you want me to leave in the projects and have these we took out? Do you want me to tell them that?
Sure.
I think it's a good
Absolutely.
to see.
Okay.
Put them
Okay.
in different colors.
Yeah.
What-
I'll see. We removed these, here's the ones we removed, and we're down to 934. We started at 1.99, we're at 934, and we've got a question for Ken about the laptop plan, and get that straightened out in our head.
So what
That
I've,
We're at
would,
934 plus 349.
correct.
yeah.
So
But
what
that's in his, yeah.
What I've done is I populated, you see you have a final CIP voted column, then there's a recommended by TRSB, by this board, right? Do you have that column?
Yeah.
So I put everything into that column.
Yeah, he already did it for you.
Yep, it's all set, and then whatever you've opted to remove has been taken out of that, so.
Nice.
Column heading is recommended by
No, I want them to see what we took out.
Yeah, so they'll see it'll be
Yeah.
blank, and everything else will be recommended.
Okay.
The other thing that we could do is a potential is to add the Sandown Central roof area at 140K. We could add that to the capital reserve warrant article that we're looking to propose to make a combined one warrant article for the two projects.
I don't know if you want to do
I
a
wouldn't,
project, you could do two warrant articles.
Well, you could do, yeah, I mean, you could
Yeah.
do
I wouldn't
that
combine
separate.
them together. It's probably
I wouldn't
better,
combine them.
because one might pass and the lower one. might-
Yeah, I want the pack fixed, but I don't care about Sandown, that's, nobody, I don't think people will do that, but I don't think it's a good idea to put it as one warrant article.
The roof is more an end-of-life thing versus leakage, correct?
Correct.
Where the pack is.
A problem.
We know it's behind end of
Story.
life.
That one's, all right, I'll start working on the warrant article for the, removal of the walls and stuff. I'm gonna need better figures there, Tom, or I'll work with Brian on getting the figures so that we have the right number to put in there. But I'll craft the language around that, and then, all right?
So
Anything else?
how should I, just,
You already gave me that information, correct?
I have, yeah,
Yeah.
but to
We're all
tighten up
set.
the number.
Okay, we're all set, good. Anything else about CIP?
We're tightening up the 4.5 number, or I thought
Right.
you'd asked to look at different.
Well, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, he's gonna, let's just be sure that's the number you wanna put in,
In the product.
and the
That's-
product that
yeah.
you wanna put in.
And who's gonna install it? I mean, at one time, we were talking about doing it ourselves.
It's not going to be.
Not
in-
gonna
No,
be
that's-
done by us,
I would
Yeah.
not recommend.
You don't want,
that
no, I wouldn't do that.
in-house,
then we don't have any, any.
Not that they
I wouldn't do that.
couldn't. I
Not a
think
job
that
like that.
it's more of a liability to the district.
Not a job like that.
Right, no.
Those guys shouldn't be doing that stuff.
Agree.
Okay, are we agreed here? We don't need a motion, we've consented? We're good?
Beat it to death.
If we can, then let's move on to budget update. Anything to tell us? Thank you, Tom, for your work.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure, thank you all.
I believe you have in your packets the budgets that have been presented, starting with your own finalized school board expense budget, which you voted to make flat by making an adjustment to the legal fee line. You have middle school, all department, or all school budgets came in flat. If you have any questions on any of the specific budgets, I'm more than happy to entertain whatever questions you have. I don't want to take up too much time if you've got other things on your agenda. Pollard is in there as well. And transportation is last. This is new. We have not really presented this budget in this way previously. And it's showing an increase, but you all had reallocated some funds into those lines. And really, it's not the increase that's showing. And that's the last budget. requested, 3,446,000. Voted showing is 2,964,000, difference 482,000.
Sorry, where are you?
I'm on the last page. Yep. So, you have, I hope you have a transportation budget.
What about for regular transportation for a bid? What's special ed do for a bid for
Ooh,
transportation?
good question. Next year.
Let's not get behind.
Savvy. Let me get that in there, did you? Yes, you did.
Upside down.
Here's the, I had this added,
I've got pages like
the contract.
7 at the end.
Yeah, it's, you looking for transportation?
Yeah.
So my last page is transportation?
Yes.
Last page?
The very last, flip it right over.
Okay.
There you go.
Can I ask?
So you got page 1 on the other side.
What-
Page 1 is which
what
is page 1.
homeless-
Yeah, 'cause you did it by, so there's school board, right? Keep going.
What did you ask him? I'm sorry.
Middle
I
school.
was curious as to homeless.
Oh, all right, I see
transportation.
now.
Those are expenses the district is required to pay for depending on the location of students who would become homeless in our district. And
Why are we,
You have to go get them.
no, I'm sorry, no, that, I'm done with that question. So special ed transportation is up another 200,000 requested.
I think that's pretty level with where we thought that it would be in the current year.
Well,
That's
it's
rate
like
limit.
818 last year. And you're looking to bring it up to 1047.
Special ed transportation.
We have a lot more special ed transportation?
Well, we have our increases in the contract for this year and next year that are included in there. We do have additional expense relating to bus monitors that we've been using, or utilizing more so in the current year than we had previously.
What's the contractual increase amount in that?
I believe we have our 3% increase. When we look at what's needed, we have to really do our best guess estimate based on what the needs are. So when you say contractual estimate, we have a contractual estimate for the buses that we know we're gonna run every day. That's easy to identify.
Oh, I guess I said it wrong. The contractual increase is 3%.
Correct.
So that can't get put in the default budget, so that you have to use the current number, not that 3% higher.
Okay.
So I'm just asking.
You have to use, right, you can't, in the calculation, has to be not the increase.
So the 818 would then be increased by 3%. That would be the figure. Anything above and beyond that to get to the 1.047 million is additional students that would be transportation for sped.
Right.
And so is that our viewpoint, or is that we're gonna have an additional students participating in, or needing these transportation services?
Yes, we never know exactly what our needs are gonna be. We have situations that we're able to, and we do leverage when we can, shared rides for out-of-district placements, which is great. We've had a great deal of success with that. We've had on-bus monitors on some of our buses, which we have had more of than we've had in years past. So we never know quite where our placements are going to be. We never know how we'll be able to transport those students. We can have multiple students on one bus if the student may require individual transportation.
One thing we should be looking at with these contracts, especially given, because we had this discussion informally, we should be looking at subject to funding language for increases on a contract, like the transportation contract, moving forward. If we're gonna be looking annually, we're worried about default numbers, right? So when they bid, they realize it's the same number unless the proposed passes. And
Right.
they need to provide the same level of service, right? And that, I mean, I don't know what that does to the bids, but that's not neither here nor there. It would be helpful for us, right? Instead of getting stuck with an increase that we won't have money for, right? Or we have to find somewhere else.
Have to find it.
Yeah. Right, that make-
Typically, that's what you'd run up against.
That change in the law, changing that, yeah. So we have to find the money for it.
But the subject to funding covers to some degree.
Right.
We couldn't they wouldn't get an increase in the services that they have to provide, but they'd have to provide the same service. They say, how do they do that? Well, our athletic trainer contract has been the same number for a bunch of years. They can do it if they had to, right? And they bid that way every year for us, so. I don't know if we'll have to talk to them about that if it comes to that.
Yeah, typically, that type of clause or fiscal funding clause would allow you to essentially terminate the contract. I don't know how it would work if we weren't funded, because I think they'd come back and say, well, you really have to not be funded.
It's interesting, because New Hampshire school boards, when we were there for training, talked a little bit about that. There's no case law about that, so we'd have to see what happens.
Right.
Since it's a new change to the default law, we don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, and then they reference back to what the actual state law was about providing transportation to which students.
Right, which, yeah.
So even though we
Which eighth
provide
grader-
more than what the state law requires.
And we've got to count
And
on
we
that.
force our hand
Right.
Yeah.
to look at what we're obligated to do.
Right.
That I think you're right. You're absolutely right.
Gotta find the money.
Because that has specific languages in RSAs. This isn't like a contract for photocopiers, for example, which then we wouldn't be able to do that.
Yes, Jen, go ahead.
You start to bring up homeless transportation, and not that I'm doubting what we're spending or that we have to provide transportation. But I am just curious, did our homeless population double?
Our transportation expenses.
Because from 16-17, we expended 24.6. 17-18, we expended 45.8.
That's where they live,
Yeah, I don't think it's the number. It might be the distance.
the distance.
But I was, Susan's not here to talk about that, but, and then it's about, it could be both of those things, it could be more.
I was just wondering from a social,
I don't think that there would be a
Point of view.
direct correlation between an increase in the homeless population and an increase.
There was an increase, though.
I believe that's a two-part question there, Jen, that,
Two-part answer.
and we don't have, there aren't as many, situations for them to find places to live, but we have to go get those children, so.
no, I understand the law that we have to, I was just, yeah, wondering about the homeless piece of it, okay.
Trend doesn't seem like an awful lot, but you can end up having to provide the services, and as you can see, it quickly can escalate. If you look at the trend from what we had spent 18, 24, 45.
Yeah, and I know that's, a hard one to predict, and I would
Right.
hope for many reasons that it would go down, but, yeah.
Rockingham County has an increase of homeless. It's increased,
Housing shortage all over, yeah.
and the housing shortage hasn't gotten better, so it's kind of this way.
Don't I know it?
Anything else but the budget for tonight?
Just one question. I think I saw somewhere that math expendables were about $30,000. I mean, there was, now I can't find it. Sorry.
Math expendables, for everybody in the district, for those, oh, workbooks. That's the workbooks.
We talked about that one time.
Workbooks, it could be,
Okay, that's fine.
hands-on stuff.
Workbooks make a lot of sense.
Consumables.
Oh, is that primarily?
I'm just guessing that expendables would be things you'd
It was
use up
included
that
in
are
the
math.
first, so many.
Yeah, consumables will be in the
Consumables.
budget, yeah, absolutely, and we.
Consumables, workbooks.
Yeah, gosh, a 3-year contract is actually expiring this year, and so we haven't seen the need for those consumables in the school budgets prior to this year, or this coming, projected year, so, yeah, that is definitely an increase, and that's what it is, it's the workbooks.
But it can also be,
It can be
I
the
call them the little
manipulatives.
handheld thingies, the beans, the seeds, the bare things, the cubes, the rulers, all of those are.
That's a lot of.
That's a lot of Cuisinart rods, yes.
Yeah, well, the manipulatives are very.
Manipulatives, thank you.
costly, yes. But the workbooks is primarily what that costs.
I mean, I was just guessing off the top of my head, Kim.
All of our schools are experiencing that cost shift, if you will, or that cost in their budgets. They've done an excellent job responding to it. And you'll see an almost direct correlation between the student population and the expense of the school.
But my understanding is that came out of a different budget before, and now the schools are taking it out of their budgets individually?
That's correct.
So what line is it coming out of, the
It-
other line that it's coming out of to go to the schools?
And Christy, I'll let you speak to that if you want. It was more of a,
Something should be.
Curriculum,
But-
district level curriculum budget.
but it was prepaid a
It
number of years
was,
ago.
Yeah, 3 years, 3 years
So it
ago.
was- it was-
It was
So
paid in a lump sum.
prepaid, so we don't have that in the budget for this year at all.
Correct. Thank you.
Other questions?
Updates, if there are no other questions, or, oh,
A quick question. I see NEASC here. Is NEASC coming this year for middle school?
it's next year, I believe.
So that's
For
not
middle
this
school or
budget.
for high school?
Middle school.
In 20?
What page is on the bottom? Okay, what-
It's page 15. There's nothing right here, but I just
Oh, there's
wondered,
nothing
because
there.
that got pushed out to this year, but it must not be happening this year either.
Oh, it had been there for $1?
It's only, that's a placeholder. That was a much bigger number.
Oh.
That was something we took out at the middle school level. Obviously, high school, we need accreditation. Middle school's optional.
Oh, so you're not doing it?
If there's a
Just
dollar there,
dollar, just holding the
it's just a
place.
placeholder in the event that we were to revisit that. But I know Mr. Flynn, Principal Flynn, let them know that we would not be participating in the optional NEASC visit for the middle school.
Okay.
I think in the high school, you're gonna see a pretty good sized number in the high school NEASC line, right? Is it a? is
Yeah,
this-
we're in year 1.
Other budget updates, if there are no specific questions on the schedules, the GMR has been received. I don't know if everyone is, if I've informed everyone, I know Mr. Boyle being at the Budget Committee meeting would know, our GMR guaranteed maximum rate for budgeting purposes is 6.5% from health trusts, our insurance plans.
Is that down, up?
You know, it's 6.5%, it's up, it's an increase, but recall, not that many years ago, 20, 21%
Right, it was
GMR.
12, it was, yeah.
So, it's,
What was it last year? Wasn't it like 4 or 5% last year?
it was in the 5 or 6 range. It wasn't out of line with what we're,
But it wasn't as high as 10, or wasn't that high?
no.
No, it was actually pretty close. Wasn't it close to the GMR last year? I mean, relatively close?
What, the actual?
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual came in very, very close to
Yeah.
the
But the
GMR.
GMR was low and the actual were low.
That's right,
Yeah,
in relative terms, yeah.
relative terms.
Is there any way to get on, I mean, because at the town level, we know what our rate are for the policies through the same health trust. So I can't, fathom that they can't tell you what the rates are gonna be for fiscal year for the school.
So that what they're doing, and your insurance policies may commence on January 1st, 12/31. Ours are 7/1 through 6/30. So they are projecting, I have no idea how they do it, but they're projecting our July 1st rate now, where the towns get their rates.
There's a 6-month skew between most towns, the calendar, and the school. We've known ours for a couple of months now.
Yeah, and so we're
And 6 months from that is less than our deliberative. So we should know by our deliberative what, not a guaranteed maximum rate, we should actually know the rate is X. And we should be able to adjust that on the floor.
I mean, on the town, at the town level, or are you talking about at the school district?
I'm using
level?
the town for when I get the actual dollar amount of the increase for all the health trusts that we have for the town employees. And if we know that already now, and there's a 6-month skew between us, the health trust should be able to provide that number to us, and not in a, guaranteed maximum rate increase fashion, but an exact amount. If they can do that to the town,
I think our actuals come in after it's voted.
This is my,
It has for the
April,
last,
I think, April,
Yeah.
May? I don't know.
comes in April, when we know exactly, we've already had our deliberative and our vote.
so backing on up the 6-month skew, if we're getting it in April, that would be November.
3 months.
We would just be finding that out at the town level now for what we're trying to budget, and
I heard Plasto's announced the other night, so.
Yeah, so we already know,
know it
we've already
now.
budgeted. I know what the dollar amount increase is for, at the town level, so that's the part that confuses me, is that why Health Trust can't do this. And it's the same fashion, because all the school districts that are in that Health Trust are having the same
We're
problem.
all in the same boat here. It's not like we're,
And for budgeting purposes, this GMR is not a sound way of doing it.
It's better than,
nothing.
Well,
better than nothing.
well, yeah, you could always come up with a GMR that's ridiculously, 21%.
They did one year.
They
They
did.
gave us an unbelievable number.
Yeah, and then everything comes in less than that.
Very high, I mean, the actual was
Well, yeah, I mean, if you got 21% and it comes in at 15, 15 is still high.
pretty high.
Yeah, it
You
was.
know, but it's less than that, and that's the point, is that we're trying to budget accurately, and we're basically getting an estimate for
We can
that.
ask, and we can see where it goes, and if we have it prior to the deliberative, then we got a shot. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, if we can get it.
But if we don't have it until after that.
And I'll find out from the town when we actually receive those numbers,
I
because
can find out
they
from
do, they put
Plasto
that
when
together,
they
because they're, employees budget, okay, this is what it is, and so we already know that, and we've actually discussed it already at the selectmen's meeting.
Are we ready to move on from Jeff? Jeff, did you have some stuff you wanted to tell us, or you all set?
I think I'm all set.
Okay. Warrant articles we're all set on, we know what's going on at the moment, right?
Yep. Sorry, just real quick, I wanna throw this out there. I'd like us to consider changing the town for the trustee of trust funds to another town. Danville's been doing it for 50 years, and it's an expense to our town.
Plasto would be more than willing to do it, and they wanted to do it, so,
Well, I think we should take a look at that. I think it probably has to go
or maybe
to a warrant.
Sandown, or, I mean, I'm just saying
Oh, really?
that they had experienced,
Well,
had expressed interest in it a few years ago.
I don't know how that
I know
was
the
set up.
town, our trustee of the trust funds have done an enormous amount of jobs getting that, basically, I would say and I don't mean this to sound bad, but a sane viewpoint, because there have been so many of these scholarships and different trust funds for all the different awards that come out. The trust certificates were never forwarded to the trustee of the trust funds.
And then you had new
So that we're
trustees.
finding out that, as the requests come in, people don't have the knowledge, the history of that. We've been paying at request of the school, and it's for scholarships that we're set up to pay only the interest that it obtained. They've been paying principal plus interest in that. So there's a lot of discrepancies that came out of that, and a lot of that has been brought together through the help of the SAU office in getting these trust documents, also up at the state level as well. And then the other part that I know that they've addressed is, getting a lot of these investments out of the New Hampshire, deposit investors pool, and actually doing some better selection
That's what Plasto has done, right, Kristen?
of funds. The feedback that I know that they would want from this board is sort of the viewpoint of the board to figure out for terms of these investments. So for example, as if we're putting capital reserve funds in here and we don't see anything, like, all right, our maximum exposure, we were just talking about this, is that, that one warrant article for 425. The delta between that and what we have in there, they could go for a longer term of a CD and get a better interest rate. But that's the communication going back for this board and back and forth with them. So it's a thing that I do agree it should have some more bandwidth at this board level. But I wasn't prepared to talk about it as much as I have been right now.
Would each town be willing to speak to their trustees of the trust funds? I can speak to Plasto's, or Kristen can. Sarah, you can too, but
Do you think it's a warrant article, not just a vote of the board to move?
I don't know. When Rob Collins was chair, I asked that. I specifically wanted to explore because I didn't think we were getting the biggest bang
Well,
for our buck.
Who we
He
need
said-
to talk to is
Who do we-
I know who you need to talk to. It would be the director of the charitable trusts at the New Hampshire State
Yes.
Department, who I've been in communication
So I don't know if
with
it
many
has to be a
times.
warrant article.
Well, no, but they would know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Because they manage the trusts.
Terry
throughout the
Knowles is
district.
her name.
She's retired.
Right, Terry,
Should
she's
she?
leaving, isn't she?
She's
Yeah.
left.
No, did not know that.
well, let's explore that if you'd like to a little bit. You know, the more money we can get invested for scholarships, I mean, we all agree, we'd like to be able to see that
I think it's
grow.
orders
And it's a
of
lot of work
magnitude
for
better
one
than
town.
where it was previously.
Now, all of that said, and I will tell you what is on the horizon, and I don't know if this may have spurred the request or the discussion on the level of work, the amount of work for our capital reserve. Typically, we're making a contribution, it's deposited, accounted for, and reported out, right? Maybe we have a request on that capital reserve, we put all our documents together, send the request over, a check gets cut. Scholarships, which make up, a significant portion of what the trustees would hold. Previously, as you've said, the funds would be drawn down and sent to the high school, and the high school would distribute. What we're looking at now is having the trustees distribute directly to the beneficiaries. So instead of cutting one check, 2, 3, 4 checks, now it would be one check for every
Kid who gets a scholarship.
student who gets a
There's
scholarship.
a lot of them, because I've seen all the trusts that Danville's holding.
Right,
There-
and-
there are a lot.
Right.
So I haven't had the discussion as to what that is gonna look like, but in terms of compensation, that would need to be addressed, currently, and if we're able to make a change, I think that it's fair for whoever would be discussing that with their local, trustee of the trust funds, that may be a little bit different than what they might be used to handling.
And I don't know, I mean, the history of why Danville has it,
I don't know, I can't find any, I never could find
but
history of
I
that.
would
I assume
like to
there's a reason.
explore is, why don't we have a trustee of the trust funds relative to the school district?
Yeah, I never
mean, there
understood
should
why
be a
one
school
town.
district, one, at least, my viewpoint, well, why is it tagged along on a town?
I don't know.
Especially when you had the separations, and they're different legal entities, it just,
It'd be out of convenience, I would imagine.
I think it
well,
must
yeah,
have
it's
been
probably that, but I mean,
the Articles of Agreement.
How much were they holding initially?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean.
Piggyback onto a town. It's a little
Yeah,
easier.
no, I,
Now it's a little
that was
different.
probably the thing, but now that it's been so many years and morphed and.
It's been
'cause
50 years.
One of the things that I see is the issue is that knowledge of what that trust was, for that particular deposit. That's a trust certificate. That should be a copy of that, get sent to the trustee of the trust funds, as well as going up to the New Hampshire, that oversees all this stuff. And between trying to rebuild all this over the years, there's some holes of documentation that wasn't filled due to either the SAU not having it or the New Hampshire state not being informed of it. So then now, at that point, you have some accounts that are, all right, what do we do now?
I think the other thing is that having the trustee of the trust funds actually cut a check to a recipient necessitates that they know what the terms of those trusts are.
Correct.
Which will be very, very helpful, I think, in the future.
I do agree with that.
Well, let's explore that. We still have a little time and see what we can learn a little bit more about that if you want to pursue that any further. If not, I'm going to move on to policies where we have, I believe, second read and adoption on a set. Lee, are you presenting?
Sue, just for
Yeah.
2 seconds?
Sure.
If the board is okay with that, I would like to have the permission to explore a Timberlane trustee of the trust funds configuration and I'll do that with the New Hampshire School Board Association to figure out if there's RSAs, what we would need to do, if it's even possible, and then get back to the board on that.
Is that like the treasurer?
No, the treasurer is separate.
another- yeah,
You would think of
it's
them
a
as
separate
probably the same, but a trustee of the trust fund is in
Not
our
the
town, it's a
treasurer.
3-member board that are responsible for anything that's put into a trust fund.
Would you be thinking of a stipend like the treasurer gets, or no?
Yeah, but I mean, it would be relative to our budget, it's noise.
So are we amenable to having Sean kind of take a
Sure.
look at it? We okay?
Great.
It's like information place too, as opposed to one
Correct.
town carrying the responsibility, so I think
It is a lot of work, and it's gotten bigger and bigger.
And I think it's a better place if this does pan on out, potentially, the handoff back to the school's trustee of the trust fund, if it is possible, would be a lot cleaner than what it was a year or 2 years ago.
Okay, so we don't need to motion on
just
that.
I just wanna make sure.
Let's get on to these, at 10:09, let's get on to policies. Lee and Jen?
Yeah, so, these were presented at our last meeting for first read. We have second read and adoption, 4 policies, all pretty much recommended changes to align with NHSBA language. And one was to, bring in a policy that is required that we did not have, which is EFA.
This is the second read, so we're looking to adopt these. Anyone wish to make the motion?
Make a motion to adopt the 4
So
policies.
Jen's making the motion to adopt
I'll
the
second.
4. Sarah, I don't know who heard it.
Sarah
Sarah? Sarah has the second. Any other discussion? We discussed these last time. If not, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That looks unanimous, 900, thank you. I did put in your packet, by request, here are the service contracts we have right now. Operations things, so special ed bus service and first student bus service and food service and electric supply I added in, natural gas, the heating oil, the internet provider, the trash people, and the phone service that we have. Yeah.
This wasn't even close to what either one of us were looking for. We're looking for tripod, achieve, left, Ceres.
You said service, so to me this is service. So what are the ones you wanted? Tripod? What else?
Basically,
Any
Oh,
vendor,
yeah.
you want a vendor contract.
You wanted education programs?
anything that we're currently under contract.
So these are not what you wanted?
Well, these are some.
Yeah.
I mean, these would be some, but.
Can you shoot me an email and make a list, because that's gonna take, it's in different areas of the
I thought we said, oh.
We don't know what we don't
district.
know.
I thought we said that we
Nobody
had
sent me a
something.
list.
I didn't know we needed a list, I thought we.
So special
This is
education-
what I thought you meant, I'm
Special
sorry.
education
No,
ones are
it's-
gonna be very tricky, because those are students. Like, I mean,
Right.
We don't need student names.
We've already been through this with special ed, though. There's a way to do it so that you eliminate the student.
We did it last year.
Remember, we did it last year, so it can be
If we're
done.
looking for individual contract by vendor to particular student, I mean,
Not particular student, no.
I'm not asking, I know you're not asking for the student's name.
No,
but
no,
they're
but
different
just
vendors.
all the different things that we have, we're currently bound to, as we were talking
Well,
about
budgeting,
budgeting.
You
and
want the
we're gonna
athletic
go-
trainer?
Yeah, you wanna be able to see a
Athletic
contract that knows that we got a 3% increase, see that contract, know that it's, it's valid from this date and expiring on this date, options and so forth. And then that should be maintained going forward, such that, we know next year at
Well,
a,
here's the one coming up.
yeah, this one's coming on up, and we wanna, these are the ones we're gonna have to address this year.
Education programs, you know.
We're talking instructional tools, we're talking.
Instructional
Assessment
tools,
instructional tools.
investment
all
tools,
Software.
Textbooks,
software, textbooks.
Yeah, I don't think we have a
We
sense
have
of everything, we
no
wanna
knowledge
know
of
how
when-
that all kind of,
So
like,
what is
what do
it?
we have to look at year to year, and what are we contracted for?
Multiple years.
Long year, that we know that all of a sudden something's coming up, especially with default budgeting, when you're looking at something. I mean, if you're talking about what's what are you bound for future years, that's what we just wanna know.
All right, that'll take them a little while, because it's a lot of different areas they have to go in. I'm
That's what-
sorry, I
that-
thought I understood what you
happens with the
wanted.
department budgets. Those are the decisions that are made by the people that are actually in charge of making the decisions, right? They're in this document.
Right, but if we've gotta make sure the money is there for these,
They would, I mean, but they,
They're making sure.
but
the
they're doing
money's
their budget, they wouldn't
Not
not put the
fund.
money there if they needed the money to support what we were doing, I guess is, I understand what you're asking for.
Understandable, but that's, I mean, the question that was asked, and I was told that the information is readily available, was where do we keep an access database of what do we have for contracts that we could just see? And that's, the impression I got was that it would be something.
Do you want to
It could be
see the
easily-
actual contract we have with Comcast? It's about probably 17
No,
or
I
18
don't need to
pages.
see the actual contract,
expiration
we asked for just
I
a
gave you
list
the
of.
expiration date. I completely misunderstood what you wanted then. I was sure I understood when Sheila
I
sent
actually
me a
didn't think
second
you were the
email
one
on
that
it.
was gonna be putting it together, Sue, so
right,
I mean,
figured it would,
I thought it was something that we're.
something that the district already had, I mean.
We don't already have it.
Have it
I mean, that was like our
Not in
thing,
one
you keep a
place, no.
tickler list
I
of
mean, there are
your contracts.
Curriculum material, I don't keep track of what, when we're buying pencils for elementary school, I just don't.
No,
But
but
is
I
that
did
a
a
contract, actually?
It's all under state contract by different things that we buy for, materials and those sorts of things. I mean, we're, how many straws do we have in the cafeteria? I don't know. I mean, we have enough, don't we? I mean, so we can start getting all those different contracts, but it's a lot of work. I mean, they take care of that. I don't, I don't have all that in one place.
I don't think we need how many straws we have in the
No,
cafeteria.
that's not.
So do you,
What we're buying now is
They're
reusable straws.
biodegradable, they're environmentally friendly. Yeah.
Save the turtles, that's right.
No balloons either, no balloons.
All right, well, here's the beginning of the list, and we'll keep working on it then. I'm sorry I misunderstood you. I was so happy that we got this much of it done for you, so.
so if I get, maybe what you're looking for then is a vendor, well, it's a vendor list, but a lot of your vendors you don't have contracts with, if you
No,
will.
we
They're more like POs.
Like
Correct.
Staples
They
and.
go to buy stuff when they need
Right.
it, you know, some of
I
it's
think we're looking
materials,
for
some of
that.
it's books,
So
some of
you-
it's, because we're looking for people under contract.
You're just looking
we're
for contracts.
Companies under contract, are we looking
No
for?
contracts.
No, but I'm just saying,
I think we're looking for anyone we have a written agreement for a time period.
Person
That's
or
what I
company?
believed we.
Provide services or
Like, for instance,
Product.
who remembers that tripod is up in 2020? There's gotta be
And
something.
achieve, things
So you have
achieve.
that in your head. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so I'm impressed. But do you understand what I'm saying? There's gotta be a database. We know we have achieved for 2 or 3 more years. When does that come up? This is what we're looking for. We're not looking for straws, we're not looking for crayons, we're not
No.
looking for WD Mason. We're looking,
But what if we have an agreement with them? What if we have an agreement with WD Mason that we're gonna buy all our paper from them for the next 3 years? That would
and
be
we get
then
a
on the
deal on it,
list.
sure.
Well, that's
But
a
it's-
contract.
If we have an
That's
executed
what I mean,
contract,
so
that would be
contract
part
for,
of it.
this contract for services, which could be a person, it could be a company, right? The services could be, it could be a technology service, or it could be a service that a person provides. Then it could be, are there books that we're obligated to buy each year as part of some sort of series? And, I mean, there's a lot of different moving parts to that. That's why in the particular departments, they do talk about that and they ask questions. You know, they have it. I think I understand what you're asking for, but I mean, if we're just gonna send out, like, hey, everybody give us every contract you got and what our financial obligation and the terms are, I mean, and then try to put it all in one place. But we really don't, I don't have it all in one place. Sorry, I just rely on each department to make sure we have what we need in that particular department.
Well, this was not an agenda item. I did this thinking we didn't need to
Thank
make
you,
it an
that's it.
agenda item. We could just produce the list, but
Thank
here
you for
we
the
are.
effort, though, thank you.
Thank you. I tried.
I know, thank you.
Could I just make a suggestion
Sure.
about this? Would it be helpful to start just hearing what everybody's saying with district-level contracts? Not, what does the elementary school have, what does the middle school have, what does the high school have? But just as a starting point, district-level contracts.
No, it's basically, you've got the superset, you know, I mean, you got vendor contracts, you got service contracts, I mean, it's all.
Or an SLT.
But I mean, would that help kind of just narrow it down a little bit as a starting point and say, oh, yes, this is what we're looking for?
It does, but it does get to the question that you asked, somebody asked earlier, like, Sheila asked, what came out of a district budget and went into the school budgets? You know, that's spread out now, that's really a district, but each school's paying for it individually. You follow what I'm saying? Because you touched.
Well, because she had paid for it 3 years in advance. I
Well,
wouldn't know that
Yep.
unless I asked the question.
Yep. What was prepaid by
So that's kind of what I'm looking at, is that it was paid until 2019, and now you have to re-up it. So,
Well, but not all
So
those.
from a
Why don't we start-
budgeting standpoint,
Till
you're gonna
when?
see that
paid
you have to
annually.
budget for it, and then you're gonna see 2 years of no funding for it, because you've already prepaid it, and then all of a sudden it's gonna come back in
Right
it,
again,
versus
right.
having it nice and linear where you can see it.
Well, I mean, in terms of simplifying this, kind of to Jen's point, why don't you let me take this to SLT and ask SLT, because that's your central office people to take a look at their contracts, what we have obligated, and how far, and go and see what that list looks like. Because that's Tom, and that's Jeff, and that's Christie, and me, and Sandy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then see what that list looks like. Right now, is the services on certain things. I wonder whose list is the biggest. It must be Tom's, right? No, I don't know.
I bet it's technology.
Operationals, grounds.
Trying to give you a pass, so.
You
All
have
right.
only 2 things on your list.
So put that on that.
Okay, all right, we'll give it another shot here. Moving on, I have for you, and if you don't have a copy with you, the letter from Mr. Graham. They Brian, you have yours, right? If you need another copy, I said I would bring them. I did email you this. You've had a chance to look it over.
Are you releasing this, or are you, is this public?
I'd like to make a motion that we include this in our public minutes.
Yeah, this should be okay, no?
Are you making a motion?
Sure.
Yes, and I will
Second for that, Mr. O'Neill? We haven't discussed it yet, but we can certainly put it in the public minutes.
If we're gonna be discussing it, it actually becomes a public document.
That's correct. So we're putting it on the, is that your motion, that after we've discussed this and it becomes a public document?
Sure.
So, you got that motion somewhat,
Yeah,
Kathy?
can I receive a copy then? If you have an extra.
Kim's got it.
Is there some extras there? Thank
Who
you.
seconded that?
Sean
Sean.
seconded. Jen and Sean. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so all in favor of having a discussion here and then releasing the information? That looks unanimous, 9-0-0, thank you. I'll entertain any discussion you'd like to have about this. Brian did, as I said in my email, I'll say it publicly, he did the phone call. I think the phone is now grown off his ear. The poor man has been
Thank
on
you,
the
Brian.
phone for what we thought was gonna happen like that, right?
Yeah,
Has
let me-
not, it's been a rather long process, so we appreciate your patience that you weren't asking us to have it done in 5 minutes, but here we have it, so, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so, it was, I'm thinking a year ago, when Kim and I went over to this same firm to get an opinion on the default budget, it just seemed to happen in a half a day to a day. So as I was calling around last week, this ended up taking, I'd say, 30 to 40 hours. I spoke to a half dozen different firms. And so for the people at home, what we're talking about here is weighted voting. I don't even know if it's even out yet. We all went to an SAU meeting.
Yeah, there's that.
Oh, was up? Okay, so we went to an SAU meeting, and basically, there was a group of us were comfortable with what, there's a state RSA that covers this topic, weighted voting. And it's really geared towards a district like ours. For example, we are Timberlane, so we have 4 towns in Timberlane. We're one school board. And then, and then we share SAU, we're SAU 55. They have 5 board members at Hempstead. So as obviously I'm doing this for people who are not in the room. Everyone in this room understands. So there's 9 of us, there's 5 in Hampstead. So when we have our meetings 3 or 4 times a year, each person in the room gets a vote. Myself and Jen, we're Atkinsons. Atkinson gets 2 votes. Hampstead gets 5 votes, Placer gets 3, and Danville, Sandown get 2 each. Now, I always thought it was funny, because I didn't quite understand how that whole thing worked, because, again, when the SU 55 started, it's a long time ago, it just seemed inequitable how different towns got different votes. We found out, well, at least I found out a few weeks ago, there was something called weighted voting, which makes it equitable. According to Attorney Graham's letter, I guess it first started looking at the amount of teachers in a district. Now they changed it more towards students in a district. And then the state has a formula. So when we went to our meeting, there was a difference of opinion 2 weeks ago of how that occurs. Now it's pretty clear how it occurs that, again, SAU 55 is made up of 2 boards, Hampstead and Timberlane. So the way it works is the majority of either board at a meeting can demand what they call weighted voting. So what I did was I called around to different firms, and as I was doing this, the other thing I discovered, much like the bus contract, as we found out last year, there's not a lot of people that have bus contracts. There's also not a lot of law firms in our state that are a full service school support law firm. There's hundreds of lawyers in the state, but there's not a lot of, like our current lawyer, Sewell Kidder. There's just, I don't know the hard number, but this was
6.
part of the problem that I was having as I was calling around, that I was talking to a bunch of people being nice to me, but, after hearing my story, they just went, I can't help you. I mean, if you have a case, I can represent, but I don't represent school districts. Great. I called a law firm, Dean Eggert, who I talked to him last year about default budget. And in that phone call, Dean explained to me how he received a phone call from, I guess, superintendent. You're probably directed by the Hampstead School Board to
I didn't speak to Dean Eggert.
It was the other way around.
I've never
Dean
spoken to
Eggert
Dean
was,
Eggert.
No, Dean told me he spoke to you.
He's never spoken to me.
Interesting. Okay,
What firm is that? Isn't that,
interesting.
He's never spoken to me.
Okay.
I've never said one word to him, ever.
I thought
in my
the
life.
other one.
No, the other one said he spoke to Kathy, Bob Masasa, used to work for Dean Eggert. Yes.
Yeah, he actually handles, remember I talked to you earlier about sometimes when we have a hearing, we'll need a lawyer for the district and a lawyer for we've
Yeah.
used him in the past for the district. I mean, for the administration.
So, but from what I understand now, because I personally spoke to Dean, and interesting how he's misquoting you here, but he's telling me that he's now representing Hampstead, whether it's, and when I ran this by Jim O'Shaughnessy a couple hours ago, maybe he's just handling Hampstead for the essay withdrawal versus Hampstead School Board matters. I don't know, but he's representing Hampstead.
Sue is shaking her head. So Dean Eggert's firm, that firm is been employed by Hampstead for the withdrawal.
I guess, I don't know.
Engaged.
Not that, I guess he's agreed, I don't know if there's been no money, I don't know about the money piece.
Okay,
of it.
right.
But
So he's agreed.
that should their withdrawal happen, he will
Represent Hampstead?
represent Hampstead in the withdrawal.
Okay.
And then, okay, so this other attorney I spoke to, he has already been, did you speak to Bob? About SEO, did you speak to him, Kathy?
I did not speak with him, no. I communicated with him, but I didn't speak.
Oh,
with him.
okay. And he's representing SAU 55 on the withdrawal.
No, any matters that Drummond Woodson can't handle because of any conflicts, any matters.
So SAU 55 has engaged a lawyer regarding SAU withdrawal. Is that what I'm understanding?
Any business that Drummond Woodson can't represent us in, any business.
Any business.
Any business that Drummond Woodson can't because of any conflicts.
Okay, and that was the SAU.
He's the SAU lawyer that we would use when we can't use Drummond Woodson.
But he has just been recently engaged by the
He's
SAU.
been engaged in the past, but he's engaged in the past and he's engaged again.
So he's been engaged recently by the SAU.
Well, we call it re-engaged.
Okay, let's call it re-engaged.
In the last
and-
couple of
and
weeks.
So that was clearly done by whom?
That was done by me.
That was done by you,
Through
by
through
yourself?
Kathy. No, through
But we-
Kathy. Consultation with the chair. He didn't direct me to do it. He
So-
told me I had the authority to do it, so I did it. He did
So-
not direct me to do it. I asked him, he said, I'm not directing you to do it. He says, you have the authority to do it. So if you feel you need a lawyer to represent SAU, go ahead and engage a lawyer. But he did not direct me to do it. He reminded me that I had the authority to do it, so which I did do.
Okay, so if I could just, if I may, so as I was able to circle back to Gordon Graham, because the week started with Gordon Graham, and it was my intention that day, or the next day, for Sue and I to take a ride over there, to which Gordon Graham said to me, let me talk, you've got the letterhead, there's a half dozen lawyers in his office, let me talk to the people in the office and make sure I don't have a conflict before I tell you we can work for you. I said, okay. So a couple of days later, when I reached back out to him, he says, we don't have a conflict, I'll be happy to help out the Tim Blaine School District. Great. So I engaged him. He asked him with the opinion, write an opinion on weighted voting on the subject matter. And then the second thing I asked, because it came up at our SAU meeting, do the Pinkerton students count? because obviously they're Hempstead students. And then according as you've all read the letter, he says they don't, but it could be argued either way, which to me, it's 6 1, half dozen the other. I was looking to, which we were missing 2 weeks ago, when we go to this next SU meeting, I was looking to have something, a hard copy in our hand besides, phone conversations that I personally had with Jim O'Shaughnessy or different board members had with Will Phillips, and it's obviously when you get in a room with 14 people and you don't have the hard copy in your hand, it makes for a pretty bad discussion. So right now there is a hard copy, and I think right now we were the 7 of us that left the meeting that night. We were right. It was legally it's pretty black and white what it says how you exercise right of voting. And my concern, I recognize this is a Timberlane School Board meeting, but we are going to have a meeting in a couple of weeks with our fellow board members from Hampstead. And I think it would be wise to, as a board, to know where we're going with this, because the confusion even happened in the last couple of weeks about even legal opinions. We now have, there was talk about it, but now officially there's been an SAU withdrawal petition submitted. It will be on the ballot. Whether it passes or not is irrelevant, but it will be on the ballot. Now, when I got my hands on this thing a few nights ago, within 15 minutes, I forwarded it to the chair. And I want to say within 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, she forwarded it to you. Which I think that's how it should be.
Exactly.
When stuff like this happens, and then I asked Sue to, when she reached out to you guys, it's not wasn't stamped confidential, because you see how it's addressed. It's actually addressed to this building, in my interpretation. Usually once something hits this building in the U.S. mail, says fax or U.S. mail, it very quickly can become a public document. So that at that point in time, it wasn't really a public document. So I figured it'd be wise for the board to get it first, and within the hour of me having it, you had it. I just think it is so important when we get together November 14th. I think this board should, as a board, should strongly consider, and I appreciate that the chair already sent an email off to the SAU chair saying that Timberlane is going to be demanding weighted voting for the evening. So Sue's already sent that to Jason. I think it's very important, because we are the large shareholders, that we try to, obviously people can vote their own conscience, how we should get control of the SAU board, because when legal matters like this happen, you should know about it real fast.
Exactly.
It's been a very frustrating couple of weeks. I'm sure it's been frustrating for Hampstead also, that you're in la-la land, that you don't really know what the legal opinion is. This one said that, this one said, and you don't have anything in writing. Last year it was the same thing. When I got my hands on something of this magnitude, I got it to the proper people, like fellow board members, as soon as I can. And I just think this is very important, that we as a board stay together. And we're Timberlane, they're Hampstead, together we're SAU 55. But when you start talking about, I just look at this year as a little different, that I think our district, residents of our district, have now put on paper that they want to withdraw from SU 55. And so that's a study. That's a 2 or 3 year process anyway, from what I gather. Even the lawyers that said they couldn't help me told me it's a 2 or 3. It doesn't happen in 2 or 3 months. It's a 2 or 3 year process. Right. But I think we would be wise to be acting as the lead. And obviously there's a process, and I'm just bringing this to my fellow board members tonight, because it was a lot of work, and that's fine. But something to this, when you look at what can and probably will happen over the next 180 days, we want to know as soon as something happens versus the way the SAU meets. We could have theoretically a meeting in November and maybe not meet again till March.
Exactly.
And it's like, we could be in lull. If something happens, now we're sitting back going, what?
Well, I can tell you right now, I get no response, none, zip, zero, to any email I have sent to the chair. And I'm the vice chair of the SAU. I've not been
What chair?
included
Oh,
in.
SAU chair.
SAU chair, I'm sorry. I've not been included in any conversations, no communication at all with the chair. So he has essentially left this board out of the loop on everything.
And I think there's some confusion there.
Not even common courtesy to reply with, I received your email, would be nice.
So one second, and I know the biggest thing we have to deal with at the next is get an SAU budget passed, and I'm sure that's to me a simple thing. It really is. I'm not really concerned about the SAU budget, because we'll be able to make quick work of it. It's a $2.5 million budget. But I just think this board should be aware of that going in November 14th. And as a matter of fact, I think, you take the thing back of Sue, but it's like, I think this board should, through our chair, ask the SAU chair to put election of officers on the agenda. I don't want to hear this little, that was a little, what happened 2 weeks ago was a little crazy. It was.
You can't third it, but.
Anyway.
Can I just speak to Kim's point?
Sure.
Oh, on the, I just don't want, and this has nothing to do with the SAU chair, just as the SAU superintendent. Whenever I have something that needs to go to both boards, and remember you said, why am I getting copied on this? And then you went, oh yeah, because I'm the vice chair, right? I send it to the chair and the vice chair of the SAU if it's an SAU issue. I always have.
But you just informed us that you had conversations with the chair regarding legal counsel, and I clearly was not involved in that, even though I requested to be included in any conversations, not of you, of the chair, so.
My thing was basically, my basic thing is when something goes back out to both of you, I have conversations with you that I don't have with him. And he's not included in everything, right? Our private conversations, which I'm not having right now, which I've encouraged certain things, right? I have private conversations with you as well. So it's fair is fair.
But you're having them with me as part of the Timberline board, not
Oh, that was an SAU, that was an SAU conversation I had with you. I don't want to have it now. That was the one where I can remind you later.
Jen and Sheila.
I just want to highlight a couple of things. So when you were talking about the law, it's about the weighted voting. It is, but it's also in our SAU policy. So not something that was just, dug up randomly. And regarding the chair telling the superintendent that he has authority to contact an attorney, I just want to touch upon it because I know we have a lot of new board members here, and there was a vote early on in the spring at the SAU about allowing that to happen. And I think that vote went 10-4. And I voted against that primarily exactly what happened. So Timberlane is going to be paying 77% of that bill.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we have no say, when legal is consulted or about what.
But don't you agree, I mean, I understand this paying that piece of it, but don't you agree that each of the groups should have a separate lawyer for this withdrawal?
You have to.
You do, but there's nothing so urgent and pressing that the board cannot be consulted before an attorney is engaged.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's the issue.
Unless it happened today and we have to do something.
Well, if you had an emergency, absolutely.
This is far from an emergency.
This is far from an emergency. This is
defining those
anticipated.
If it took Brian 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 10 days, and 40 hours on the phone, we need to move along.
Well, that's because
Then have a
Hampstead and
discussion
the
about
SAU
it.
had already
Had a discussion.
done it.
Sheila.
Anyways, what is the name of the lawyer now for the SAU, please? Again, the other one that, if it's not O'Shaughnessy?
how do I pronounce his name wrong?
Bob?
Casasa.
Casasa, I
Thank you.
believe it is.
Casa?
The Seacoast area.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask is, I was pretty sure that this would come back the way it did, because it seemed pretty, but there was confusion, and I understand there was confusion, and that's why we wanted to get this. So my question is, are you in agreement with this now? Is there no more confusion?
There's no more confusion.
There's no more confusion.
Okay.
It's clear.
I'm just asking because you don't know, right?
The confusion came in for me about whether our board could vote separately or the whole
Right.
SAU board.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, I just wanna make sure that we're
Seems
good
clear.
now, that's all.
Seems clear.
So there was a third, a second, and a third, a first, a second, and a
Is
third.
that even a motion?
I don't know. I haven't quite got that far.
There was a motion.
To have the chair put on, to have the chair of Timberlane contact the chair of the SAU, and I certainly will do it by email and copy all of you, and ask you not to reply all, to put the election of officers, is that what you want? The election of officers on the next agenda for the November 14th meeting. Is that the motion? Made by
I think it was me.
Brian and seconded
Seconded by-
by Sean.
Clear about that.
Can we add the vice chair to the SAU to make that request also?
Wait, what? I'm not
What,
following
Smatterly?
Can we amend that to also
Certainly
ask
have a
the
discussion. Yep.
the vice chair to also contact the SAU chairman?
Well, no, I think,
The vice chair of the SAU or
Yeah.
the vice chair of Timberlane?
The vice chair of the SAU?
Which is Kim. I think basically coming from both sources would be better than just
Sure,
ours.
yeah, but, well, if you.
I'm gonna copy everybody on it.
I was gonna
She
say,
can forward it again.
We're not an my theory is, Lee, we're not an
This is not-
SAU meeting.
this
This
is
is,
not
this
an
is,
SAU
this is,
meeting.
this is a
This is
Timberlane meeting.
us.
You're right,
She's
you're
our
right.
chair, so,
Yep, no, you're
so,
right.
I wanna, that's what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Go
absolutely
through the
right.
chair and,
I guess it's a valid point, yeah.
you know,
All right, are you okay with that?
Yeah, no,
Just saying
Brian's
I
right.
like
I
it.
can
So who
certainly,
seconded that, since
didn't say
it was
that
not
right.
clear?
Sean seconded it. Brian,
Okay, and I just want to make sure that I've got the motion correct. The
Chair
motion was to have
Timberlane.
the chair contact the SAU chair to put the election of officers on the next SAU board meeting.
correct,
Is
which
that-
would be the
that was
14th.
it.
Are we clear on the motion?
Yep.
Right. All those in favor of directing the chair to put that on the agenda? 8. Opposed? 1. Abstaining? None. Is there anything else you want to do with this?
I think what I'd like to see is a retake of the vote that would have taken place at the SAU meeting now with this in mind. So I'd actually like to make a motion that the,
I don't think.
no.
Yeah, happened at the SAU meeting.
I understand we'll have to do it at that meeting, but I would like to have on the record of Timberlane of where each board member stands on this now.
I don't think it-
Just to test us, just to make sure we're true to our word? Oh my
Are you
God.
gonna-
I'm pretty sure I know how the outcome's gonna come, Sarah, but I would like it to be on official record of where people stand. So my motion is that we support weighted voting at the SAU 55 meeting.
I'll second for this, discussion. You made a motion, right?
Correct.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
So to me, I think if anyone, people, obviously, there's 9 individuals, so you have your rights to do what you want. So if people have concerns at the Timberlane level there, what are they? I mean, this one to me is, this one's pretty simple to me.
I will offer my opinion on that. As I, was not clear before, and I voted against it for a number of different reasons. We, as a Timberlane board, we sit at the SAU as a district, and Hampstead is a district. So you were talking earlier about how Hampstead has 5 votes, and you were appalled to find out that Atkinson only has 2 votes, but they're a district, and we are a district of 9. So we, as a district, ultimately have more votes than Hampstead. If we agreed on something, then the 9 of us could do 1 vote, 1 person, and have 9 votes, and essentially, every single time. It could be 9-5, 9-5, 9-5. I don't feel like, I'm curious as to what motion is going to get put on the floor that requires weighted voting? What is it that's so important that we have
That's a good
to,
question.
Every one of
you know,
them.
take, you know, I'm
It's
just
an easy
curious.
question for me, very easy
Like,
question.
what
Very
is
easy.
it that nine of us, that you don't feel nine of us are going to agree on, or it might be a 7-7 split, that you require weighted voting?
That's when it should be weighted voting, when it's a tie. When
Yeah,
there's
that
14
makes
on a
sense.
board, insane as it is,
Yeah.
when it's a tie, then the weighted voting should count.
Oh, that makes sense.
I
And
disagree.
7
We pay
votes for one.
77% of that bill. We should
still
get
nine,
close
and
to
they're
77% of that vote. We're paying them the
Well,
majority
add
of
more
that
people to
bill.
the board.
No,
And
it's-
add more people.
All right,
Yeah.
can I?
Go ahead, Jen. So
It's-
we haven't
so
really
we-
answered Sarah's question.
I'm going to answer part of it because
Okay.
Atkinson was mentioned, and I don't feel like Atkinson should have to agree with every other town. I don't even think I should have to agree with my co-rep. I mean,
I feel no love.
You were scraping to figure out what you were gonna say there.
I didn't think I had to either agree with.
so the notion that Timberlane has to vote as 9, but so that's why it's looked at. Hampstead gets 5 votes and Atkinson gets 2, because Atkinson doesn't really get 9 unless we say we're going to agree with everybody, and we shouldn't have to agree with everybody. And when I look at it even more, if I'm missing, when you look at weighted voting, if I can't attend an SAU meeting, then the representatives in my town, they're not represented. Weighted voting allows for every single representation to be present,
Right.
regardless if.
And if it comes to a point where Timberlane or a town, say Plastow, the 3 of us couldn't be there, or 2 of us weren't here, only Kristen was here, then yeah, absolutely. Those situations make sense to invoke weighted voting. That's why it's there. But just cause, like, what's the, like, and I'm not saying
Why
that-
not?
well, fundamentally, I strongly believe in one vote, one person. That's how we vote in elections. That's how we vote. One vote, one person.
It's not how
We
we vote in
haven't-
elections.
That's not how we vote.
Okay. She has the
Local
floor.
elections. So, I'm curious why this is so important now, to the point where it is, it's upset the flow of the board. It's upset our productivity to some degree. We've had, one of our board members spend 40 hours chasing down an opinion out of his personal time to have something written down. I'm not saying that we need to vote as 9 all the time. That's not what I meant. And if I portrayed that in what I said, I apologize. That's not what I meant. What I'm saying is, we would still, in many situations, have a majority. And if there was a tie, then we could utilize weighted voting to break that tie. So I'm just curious as to the motive. Why now? Why is it so important now? That's all.
Kristen.
I have a same town, so.
Yeah, absolutely, different opinions, most
Different
definitely.
opinions, so it
Definitely.
happens, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely.
So I look at it, why now? First of all, I'm new to the board and I'm hearing about this, and to me, I'm like, why wasn't it happening before? Like, if it's an SAU policy and it was there, and I look at the numbers, and I think the most compelling argument is exactly what Ryan said, which was Atkinson has 2 votes, Sandown and Danville have 2, Plastow has 3, and we have the extra vote over these boards because we have the buildings here but Hampstead has 5. Every town is different. Every town has a different budget concern every year, you might have a police contract, there's all different stuff, so every town's gonna be looking at things differently than everybody else, so we're not always looking at it as a 9-member board. For whatever reason, we might have a town, again, that wants out of the school district, everyone should have a voice and should have an equal voice, not based on the whole district, but based on the town. And when I look at that, I say, okay, we have a situation, you asked another possibility. We carry a larger police presence, Plastow. Hampstead may have that same thing. They have more schools in there. So if something comes up and it has to do with law enforcement or the costs and something, I mean, granted, that might be more district related, but if something were to come, just an example, safety services. Plastow and Hampstead may vote completely differently than Atkinson, Sandown, and Danville will. So it's just how it shifts and how it goes. So it's not a matter of district versus district or this or that. It's how your town, your overall town budget is comprised, how everything falls together. And by going with the weighted voting, it really evens that out to allow for that that per town representation for whatever reason it may be. And I look at it this way, whether you include Pinkerton kids in the number or whatever, let's take all the high school kids out. If Timberlane didn't have a high school, each town would be sitting in this SAU if we're all thrown together with 2 votes, 2 votes, 3 votes, 2 votes. And would Hampstead have 5? I mean, you have to look at it that way. If we were all just thrown in at the same level without having all this extra, all the high school, I mean, where would it all be? If we were all in one district, we'd all have equal representation. So why not have that equal representation now? Just because they have their own school board and we have our own, I don't think it's school board versus school board. And I think that's when everyone goes, oh, it's us against, it's not. It's just creating equality for each of the towns, in my opinion. And I just think there are times when each town might vote completely different. And that's the whole thing. I mean, like I said, it just depends on what the issue is, and I can foresee several issues, and then there are other issues where you're right, it won't matter at all. But I don't think you get into something and you get so deep and go, okay, it's 7-7, now let's back out. I just think every town deserves that equal representation throughout the entire process.
I think your question about why it was never invoked in the 35 years or 40 years or 50 years, because it's been around. It's not the law changed slightly in 91, but the law's been there, is that they never felt like it was Hampstead versus Timberlane. And so they lost over and over and over again, 9-5, 9-5, 9-5, 9-5, because Timberlane drove, of course we would. So why now? I don't have that answer for you. You have absolute clarification that we have the right to ask for that vote.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Just to Jen's point about the representation. So the real spirit behind this is really when, like, say only 4 Timberlane people showed up and 5 Hampstead people were there, that you'd have all your representation, those 4 people would get all the votes.
correct.
But to your point, if both Atkinson people don't show up, Atkinson's not represented. Your votes are going to the other 3
Timberlane.
towns.
They go to somebody
They
else.
stay with Timberlane, but they don't go to Atkinson.
Correct.
So if there was an anti-Atkinson
Correct.
feel within the Timberlane group,
Correct.
you lose your representation. So it can work both ways, but I truly believe the real spirit was so that if all your members weren't there, you'd have all your representation. Because Jen is correct about that, almost like a,
Right.
you know,
So
'cause you-
I
think
talked to Will Phillips at a
Uh-huh.
long time on the phone. He was very, very generous with his time. And he said essentially what Earl is saying, he is shocked that at the SAU level, all 14 of us show up. I said, oh yeah, there'll be 13, 14, 12. We always have a good number that show up to those meetings. Wow. Other SAUs don't, but because they use weighted voting, they get their votes. I don't want that to happen here. I don't want suddenly that Kristen just does Plastow. I want all of us to still participate, but that allows that kind of thing to happen, that if Hampstead only shows up with 1 person, they get all the votes. They get whatever, if it's 56 votes, they get all 56. And that 1 person from Hampstead votes for Hampstead.
and I don't think you can ever get to that number, like the
I don't either.
77-23, because you're at 64. I don't know where you get the other 13 without, you know what I mean? The 13% to get to 77, because 9 out of 14 is 64%. You know, so to get to the 77% that you want
Well,
out
we
of,
get to the 77% by weighted voting.
a little more than,
It's a little more than that, yeah.
Close though, it's pretty close, I think. Wasn't it like in the 80s, 81, 80, something like?
I've
don't know.
already calculated it out.
I was just curious.
So-
'cause-
I'll send it out.
We
to
have
you.
a
would expect
motion on the
nothing less.
floor, so let's try to speak to the motion, if we can.
Yeah,
Jen,
that-
something else?
I was just gonna speak to in here, there's a lot of information in this opinion about counting Pinkerton and not counting Pinkerton, and I don't know how many people, watched that meeting that just got put up, but there was some spirited discussion about why the Pinkerton students would count. And at that meeting, I did say, you know, I appreciate how passionate Hampstead feels about that, but the law doesn't account for that. And when you look at our SAU budget doesn't account for that either. So Hampstead outlined all these functions that the SAU provides for the Pinkerton students, but it's not represented in the SAU budget.
No, because that's the business budget, and that is not, I understand that piece of it.
Well, but it sounded to me at that meeting, what you were saying, is that we are providing SAU services to the Pinkerton the high school students in Hampstead. That was clearly said at that meeting.
Yes.
But they're not accounted for in the SAU budget. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed when we go back in an SAU meeting. Because if we're providing services and we're not counting those, they're getting essentially free services on basically the backs of Timberlane.
It's true.
And speaking, as the chair said, speaking to the motion, I think in light of the last 2 weeks, this board was clearly misled by the SAU chair.
Clearly.
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 I mean, there's no debate about it. And when I tried to box Connor, Attorney O'Shaughnessy tonight, he just said, obviously you didn't get a written, he did not receive a written opinion from me on that matter. So they kind of read between the lines.
Yep.
And I don't care. All I know is that we were misled, which caused quite the ruckus. And then during that same time frame, this building received a SAU withdrawal. I think it is beyond important that Timberlane chair and control the SAU. You might have the votes. You're always going to have the votes by weighted vote. But as a former chair, the chair sets agendas. When you're an SAU chair and the SAU board only meets 3 or 4 times a year, it's very key that we know what's going on, anything, daily, weekly, on anything that's going to happen with this SAU withdrawal. We can't wait till a March or April meeting. Can't wait. We have to have that information.
And this board has experienced, as of last year, that they tried to request a hearing with the SAU, and it fell on deaf ears.
And that's not the job and responsibility of the superintendent. It'd be nice, to have to keep the SAU board. That's not his responsibility. We're the elected officials, so when something's happening, he might be involved in some of it, sometimes you might not be involved in it. We have to know what's going on. We can't wait months.
I agree.
So anyway.
Any other comments you want to make? I'll have Kathy read back the motion, unless we are going to withdraw this motion.
I don't know if we want to.
I'm not going to draw a motion.
Just clarification, so there's nothing specific that, a specific motion or anything specific in mind? You just, in general, in principle, feel it's important to utilize weighted voting? I'm just looking for clarification on that.
Well,
Yes.
I can think of one.
Yeah.
Well, I can think of one thing specifically. If we want to have an extra meeting.
Yeah. You can't get one now. You can't even get a response.
I was gonna say, you can't even get a response.
Let's not go to live. Let's just get a meeting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm talking to Claire here.
see if we can get that on the agenda too.
Sure, make a motion. I mean,
So, well, you got a motion on the
We have
floor
a-
here
oh, we
about,
do.
so what was
what's the motion?
what was Sean's motion?
It was already voted on.
What's Sean?
Mr. O'Neill motioned to support weighted voting at the next SAU 55 board meeting. It was seconded by Mr. Boyle.
No, that wasn't.
I think we already voted on that.
No, you didn't.
No, you had me tell the chair that we're gonna.
Oh,
First vote.
You already voted on that one.
Oh, I must have them backwards.
You did vote on that one, and that one passed.
okay.
I don't understand why you're asking, you put that in the
Because
motion.
basically, Sue, is I want people to be on the record of where they stand on this, so that they can't have it both ways all the time. And saying, I didn't,
Both ways. Oh, my God.
You'll call for the vote at the next meeting, it'll be on the record at the
Yeah,
SSA
but I'd like to
meeting.
actually have it on the record right now. Why wait till November 14th?
But we can't, this motion can't be used at the SAU.
No.
It's
We
correct.
have to vote again.
It lets our voters know, and it lets the rest of this board know where fellow people stand on this issue.
I
That's
thought
the
we
importance
stood
of
where
it.
we
Pardon?
told us, everybody said where they stood.
I wanted an emotion for him, and it's been seconded.
You wanna,
Call the question, please.
Any other discussion? All right, I'll call the question. Please read the motion again, Mrs. Belcher.
Mr. O'Neill, motion to support the weighted voting at the next SAU 55 board meeting, seconded by Mr. Boyle.
All those in favor? 9-0-0.
Great.
Is there anything else you want to do with this document from Mr. Graham? Do you want me to send it over to the chair at SAU so we can see?
I don't think he gets his emails.
I think there's something wrong with them. Not one of them has been returned.
I'm gonna try that question
Try it.
again.
Try it.
I'd like to send this over to
think you should,
him.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
sure.
it shows some collegiality.
yeah, I think you should send it, absolutely.
I was just joking, please.
All right, so when I send over that we want to have the election of officers put on the agenda, I will include, oh, by the way, here's the information we got. Do you want to talk about this Pinkerton situation or not? Because I've read this over like 17 times now, and you could do this, or you could do this.
Well, this is my opinion on Pinkerton. If Hampstead wants to include Pinkerton for the weighted voting, we include their high school students in the calculation of the SAU
Right.
budget.
And
And
what will
we
that
increase-
change it to? What does that change the
Oh, you know,
percentage
I
to?
didn't do it. I haven't calculated
Didn't do that, I was sure
No,
you did.
But it also has to go, we include them in the current SAU budget and go back
Yeah.
30 years.
No.
That's what
I'm gonna go way out on a limb here.
Wait a minute,
No,
so,
I haven't
You're talking about-
calculated
are you
it, but
I'm gonna go
30
40
years.
years back.
okay,
Are you talking about dollars? What does that come out
yeah,
to?
what did,
Well, if they have about 800 students and they're paying about $500,000, and they have about 400 high school students, then that would be
so it's about 250,000.
about 250,000.
That's right.
So they'd need to pay.
Times
how
30
much
years.
$250,000.
couple hundred
more?
thousand.
Couple $100,000.
Two-
So it would make it more, not 77-27 anymore. Or 23.
It would be about 27,
It
actually.
is about 20, yeah. We'd be about 73, they'd
It'd
be
be
about
27.
27.
I'd be
Bingo.
willing to entertain that for an extra 250,000.
I think the last sentence of the legal opinion is
Yeah.
clear.
I'd really like to
think-
talk about how we
You know,
got,
Maybe
what are we
something in
gonna
the
do about
water down
It is
there.
our
Pinkerton.
opinion
there.
that the students attending Pinkerton
Yeah.
from Hampstead should not be counted in
That's
determining.
what- yeah,
And in the
Council.
next paragraph, he said, but you
No,
could.
but, yeah, but the last sentence
his
says
last sentence.
no. It says no. The
His
last sentence
opinion
says
to
He's
us
recommending no.
says
He's
no.
recommending no.
I think he's trying to say why
Oh, I
people
know.
could look at it both
Yeah, oh,
ways,
yeah.
but
that's fine. That's
Ultimately-
not the issue. And
Mrs.
Pinkerton is
Savage,
not,
you had
Pinkerton
your
is not
hand
the
up.
issue.
Did you have something else you wanted?
I might have to stop and think, oh,
Just butt in, just
so,
interrupt.
I can't.
I'm sure you can.
never stopped you before.
We keep
I
talking
mean, we
about
beat up
things
on
that
an
we'd like to
attorney?
see on the SAU agenda, stop it. I mean, can we just talk about that for a minute? I mean, do I have to put a motion on the floor? Can I throw out a couple of thoughts? Because I've heard Jen's comment about a vote that happened that we basically gave blanket authority to seek legal opinions and spend money,
did.
which is
Yeah, we
coming out
voted
of our
that.
budget. That's
Yeah.
really worrisome.
They didn't,
Yeah.
there are 4
The
people
board
in this
did, yeah.
room that didn't
That-
vote.
that-
Okay,
that
but
went
my,
down.
but
None of us did.
But it's out there and it's
Yes.
there. So
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
my point is if we're talking about some of these things, that's concerning to me, and I'm wondering, can we revisit that? And can we get that put on the
I-
agenda as well?
Motion.
As well, do I have to
I-
make the motion, or, I mean, this seems like silly
I
to make a
think-
motion to just, we're having a discussion, do we have to make a motion for every little thing? I mean, to just direct our chair
complicating it.
to send this, if I have to make the motion, I will. And the other thing that Kim just brought up, which caught my attention, again, was, and again, I guess it kind of will go hand in hand with the waiting voter discussion on Pinkerton, but you're right, they did make the comment that we are providing services under the SAU to their high school students. And I guess the question is, what services are, I mean, because I was always under the impression we weren't.
Right.
So
No, they
I would
outlined a
like
bunch.
clarification as to really, because that was, I had my hand up umpteen times at the SAU meeting, to try to ask that question could not get recognized, which is where is the separation? Because I was trying to understand where that Pinkerton separation truly is. I mean, it seems on its face very simple. If they're not going to a high school in Hampstead and they're not going to Timberlane, they're not under the SAU. They would be under whatever Pinkerton's umbrella is. And but then, again, the comment was made that we're providing services as an SAU. So what is it?
So you want me
I
to
just
add that
think
to
we
the
need
email?
clarification of where is that separation with the high school students? Do they fall under here? And if so, for what services? And if they don't, okay. I just would like, I don't
I
understand.
mean, Dr. Metzler should be able to speak to that.
I have no interest in discussing SAU business at a Timberlane meeting.
So, and that's.
Okay.
So we
I
can
mean,
talk.
you gotta be fair to me on this. You
Right.
guys,
No,
you're right,
that's fine.
you're
No, no,
right.
she's
I work
talking
for
about-
two different boards.
I'm-
You're absolutely
that's why
right.
I'm
You're
not
absolutely
asking
right.
you, and that's
No,
why.
no, she's asking for an SAU discussion.
Right, and that's what I would like to see.
That's not what that was, she was asking. That's not what Sean asked.
Yeah, no, I understand. If you want to be.
Exploring the
I'm not
possibility.
trying to be anyway. I work for two different boards.
Okay,
know.
okay.
Right. Be
So
fair.
Alright,
I
alright.
would like that on the agenda, because it seems like whenever we try to just talk about something, we're told if it's not on the agenda, we can't.
So
I
you'd
really-
like an agenda
I
item
don't
that
wanna wait
says
3 months to understand this.
what services Pinkerton receives?
Yeah, under the SAU umbrella, the high school students, once they're done 8th grade, what are we providing as SAU for those high school students? Because then that does come into.
It comes
other-
into the
other
budget.
things, Because as us, as a district, if we're carrying this size of the budget, I mean, if it's a $250,000 difference, if it turns out to be that, and they have to pay the
it's gotta be
additional
buses.
$250, and we're saving
Education has to be
$250, there's, a $500,000 savings, we could do a lot with that. And we're talking about, we can't put equipment
Put a
in the
wall in a
playground and
building.
I mean, that's a lot of money, so if we're not looking at this the right way, I just want the clarification, because I wanna be able to go back to my constituents and say, no, we're not getting built to where it needs to be, or to simply say, yes, this needs to be looked at to determine if it's financially the way it needs to be. Because $500,000 in our pocket is, even $100,000, I mean, there's a lot of things that could be happening, that's all, so.
Jen, did you want to add your thought too of revisiting the vote? What is it called? It's not revisit,
You have
it's.
to reconsider. It has to be somebody
Reconsider.
that voted in the negative, I think. There's
No,
some
somebody in the positive.
positive. I'm sorry, positive?
I want to, is there a motion or something?
Reconsider the vote
Yeah.
to allow the superintendent to obtain legal help aside from Woodson when required. I believe to reconsider that vote was 10-4, has to be somebody in the positive. And the positive people out here, well, Sarah and myself, Danny Guide, Lee, and Kelly, and then the 5 of them.
Say that to reconsider, why can't we
Has to
just?
be to reconsider a vote has to be, I believe it has
Reconsider,
to
you have to do in the meeting itself.
Right,
have to
someone
do it
who
at the
voted in the
meeting itself.
affirmative for the motion.
Isn't that for at the meeting that you are currently in? But
I don't
then
know.
The only time you can reconsider has to be in the meeting.
I don't think we
Rescind is
can
something different.
reconsider. Rescind the vote, I'd have to look that up, what
So
the,
you're saying that a board can't rescind a motion that it made 6 months ago?
Can't we vote on something?
trying to get the words right. We can't use the word reconsider.
Revote. Or why don't we just make a separate motion, a new motion?
A new motion.
So I
Isn't
want to
that
let
done
the
at the
chair
organizational
know
meeting?
that you're considering doing that. Don't want to let him know?
Why are we trying to make a complete agenda here?
I don't think we need to have I just think it's
Let the
discussion.
board be
Once the
notified.
discussion's on, somebody can make the motion. I don't think we have to give him the exact, we just want on the agenda, the discussion of that concept. Once that discussion's on the agenda, anyone can make a
Chair,
motion.
superintendent, legal authority.
Let's put legal representation on the agenda. Just put that on.
That's a good idea, that way we could, because
That way we can
then we
find
can
out
talk
why
about
we
the
have
SU withdrawal.
engaged
Yeah, that's a good
an
idea.
SAU withdrawal
There you go.
lawyer.
There you go.
Legal representation.
That way we can talk about
Yeah,
whoever
'cause
this
that's
firm
the
is,
other-
whatever.
We just
Yeah,
vote
yeah.
that we be notified.
Who's representing who now? We need a map.
Yeah, we haven't got anybody.
I need a map as to who's representing who, if there's a conflict, if there isn't a conflict, because.
Matt,
it's
let's
very
get a program.
I can make the map for you.
Can you? Seriously, because I
Well,
was.
I thought I made a chart, but,
I mean, you can't go attorney shopping and lock everybody up either. because especially when you're dealing with a small community of attorneys that specialize in the area, and that's,
6 law
that's what's
firms.
problematic.
Well, yes.
The comment, and I tried to say this earlier, is I don't think there's a rush for us to have
Right, I agree.
withdrawal representation, because we don't even know if it's gonna happen, so why would we spend the money? That's a waste of money to go and hire somebody to say, this might happen and it might not. Let's get everything going first, number one. You need a vote, you need everything else. Number two, as long as nobody on the other side is going and doing attorney shopping and locking everybody up and
Yeah.
talking to them, you're gonna have an SAU representative and you're gonna have a Hampstead. There should be a pool for us to choose from. But if they go to every single law firm that practices educational law and locks them up, then that's a whole different ethical problem.
And
Cross
would be
that one
addressed
when you get
accordingly.
there. Huh?
And would be addressed accordingly,
Right.
because that is illegal.
Right, that's a whole different ethical problem. And
I
you
don't
cannot
think
go
these law firms would
shopping
do
around.
that, but,
They wouldn't know, Sue. They wouldn't know what
don't
other,
know.
other ones are tied up already. They would just, it'd be a one-on-one engagement. I currently am representing X, being SAU, Hampstead, and therefore, they couldn't entertain representing Timberlane in this situation.
I just don't understand why we don't want to be proactive here and,
Because it's costly, and I think you need to get the vote first. And why, and we
Well-
don't know what the issues are. You might have attorneys that are gonna specialize in certain issues this way, depending on what those issues are. And there might be other those attorneys might not
Well-
specialize in what the
well,
actual
that's,
issues
this
turn
law
out.
firm
If-
is like that, but
But, so that's my point. We don't know what the issues are yet.
Depends what
So you
happens at
can't
that
jump on
meeting.
it.
Depends what happened at that meeting, Kristen, because if Timberlane now takes control, or someone, this board becomes the SAU chair, that lawyer, you keep that same lawyer. Keep the same lawyer, that's all, but now you know what's going on.
Right, and that it might not
That's
even,
fine.
nothing may,
That's fine, they've already got the lawyer, the SAU 55, so, yeah, sounds good.
but Timberlane doesn't have a lawyer.
Timberlane doesn't have a lawyer yet.
So is that what you're
Gordon
asking
Graham
for,
or-
Sue, for Timberlane?
Yeah, I
So,
don't see any reason to.
Hampstead has one, SAU has one, I don't know if they're paying them any money, but they've got them to agree that should this withdrawal
but they
happen.
so they have, that's why I want a map. I wanna know who they have. Because if we
I
have
can
them
tell you who they
have.
have.
We know who they
We know they have.
But if we know who they have and who they have for conflict and this and that, we know who's locked up.
We
So
don't, we
then
already
that
know
means
that.
the rest of the pool, so when we go to the rest of the pool and they say, well, we can't because Hampstead's been here or us, we
I know who
can
they
simply
have.
say, you know, we were told they're represented by so-and-so, so please go and get clearance so that it's no longer a conflict of interest and you can represent us. But they should leave a whole open pool for us, Sue. There's only two, it's not a class action, so we don't have a ton of attorneys.
There's 3 groups we can't speak to, because they're already tied up, or have a conflict.
Maybe, it might be more than 3.
Yeah,
That's why I want the map.
Yeah.
So I can figure it out and then we can talk about it, but they can't tie up every attorney in this state. They can't, I mean, there's certain levels, yes.
Mr.
but-
Phillips said he would make us a list, so did Mr. O'Shaughnessy.
So that's.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Do you want me to make a motion for the chair and
I
vice
already
chair
did.
to
I already asked.
at least,
I
yeah,
asked.
start with a
I didn't
list?
get permission from you, but I said, you know, if you're not gonna be able to represent us, can you give us some names here? I don't wanna
It's a
be
good starting
the
point.
last one saying, whoa, that passed. And we're like, now what? We can't find a lawyer. We already know, or Brian and I figured out who everybody else has.
Well, no, clearly you didn't.
Today.
Clearly you didn't figure out all of them,
Yeah, we did.
based on the comment I just
No,
heard from
you
the
didn't.
superintendent. You have not figured them all out.
No, you don't know them all.
There you
I'll
go.
make it very clear, you don't know them all.
Okay, we
Okay.
don't know
So
them
which
all.
is why we
So
need
there
to
you go,
discuss
so
this.
now we've got even a bigger issue because
All right.
it's like they're.
So did we vote this? We voted. Anything else you want me to do? I'll send a letter. I'll ask you to put that on the agenda. Ask about, be ready to talk perhaps about the Pinkerton services and possibly the legal representation.
Well, there's,
Put him on notice that it's gonna get brought up.
well, I think because it seems like our Hampstead and the SAU, unbeknownst to me as the vice chair, is locking up lawyers left and right. I think that we should lock a lawyer up. I'm now agreeing with Sue because I don't know how many more
Write that
lawyers
down.
they're gonna lock up.
Oh, we do a
agree with
Kim
11:15.
agrees with Sue. This is a Sue
right.
move. Okay?
All right.
That we should, would you like, Brian?
Yeah. Let me-
First name
let me-
basis.
Yeah, that's it.
Brian.
Let me call up my buddies in the New Hampshire Bar again, you know?
I'd like the list from
We'll have to start calling him Attorney Boyle.
Mr. O'Shaughnessy. He's already got a brother named
Yeah,
that.
we've got the letterhead.
And, yeah, and from Will Phillips. They said they would provide us names. I'll go back and say, yes, I want those names. Give us those names. And if Brian finds out they're already locked up doing something else, then thank you very much, click.
Make a list.
Down the dollars.
They're already locked up.
A list, we'll make you a list.
Yeah, well,
It's for the withdrawal process.
right.
We still have Drummond Woodson to deal with our,
Do we?
yes, we do.
Okay.
We haven't let them go.
Wait, from what I heard tonight, Drummond Woodson will not be, where Mr. O'Shaughnessy won't be representing us in
No,
any
but
of
for-
that.
No.
Any of the
Yeah,
withdrawal.
it's called adverse parties.
Just the,
Can't
just,
represent
he can't.
in one of the three entities.
So,
It's
yeah, he's
unethical.
off the table for,
No, she's
It's
talking
for
about
anything
other-
that, anything
I
that was a
said that.
conflict with any one of the three parties. That whole firm is
Never
off the
had a
table.
conflict before.
yeah, so the withdrawal from SAU 55 Warren article, anything to dealing with that, Drummond Woodson's
cannot
off
do
the
it.
table.
Yeah, or if any of this other stuff goes to court, like weighted voting or any of that stuff, they can't,
They
they're out
can't
of it.
represent us.
But you have, the SAU has an attorney, because we need to have an attorney, if there's any if they can't represent us, for whatever reason,
Yep.
we have to have an attorney.
No,
Sure.
and I
We're
understand
not
that.
paying anything, we haven't re-engaged them. We
It's just,
re-engaged
it's to support your earlier comment, Brian, is that Mr. O'Shaughnessy, and with giving that opinion to Jason, violates that whole premise that he says that he was, he can't be engaged in that. So it supports your original comment that
Kim, are you
his
willing?
comments were,
I think you need to be fair to our attorney. Our attorney had informal conversations with many of you, and everybody just took whatever they
Didn't
wanted
have
from
anything
the
with me.
conversations, and then they sat here like they had opinions, when they didn't.
But the chair said he had an opinion.
Well,
Yeah.
you have an
The chair
opinion,
said
when
he
you
had
know what
an
an opinion
opinion.
is? It's the thing you have sitting in front of you when it's written, a written opinion.
Right.
yeah, would have been nice to have
Which
it
is
at
what
that
Jen had.
meeting.
Just a conversation that you have in passing is not an opinion.
Notes, right,
Well,
email.
he certainly made it sound like it.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair to our attorney.
Can I ask Kim
No, I think attorney was fine.
to make that form of a motion that Brian and I begin the process of seeking to engage or re-engage a law firm to represent Timberlane in a possible withdrawal scenario, which could be 2 or 3 years.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about that? Yes?
Just for withdrawal though?
Yes?
Because I just heard a comment saying that they may need legal for this, take us to court for this weighted voted thing too.
No,
Well,
So I'd
it's
like that to
any-
be thrown
Yeah.
into.
no, it's for anything that Drummond Woodson can't represent Timberlane, you have a backup
Backup lawyer.
attorneys, right?
Because they couldn't
Doesn't
represent
matter,
us.
that's a, whatever, hypothetical. Anything there's a conflict, adverse parties, you need to have a separate law firm to represent you,
No, and I would agree with that, so, yeah.
right? That's the safe thing to do.
So let's rephrase the motion then. Like a motion to let the chair and the vice chair seek legal engagement to represent Timberlane in any action, whether it's withdrawal or weighted voting, et cetera, where there is a definite conflict between our school district and Hampstead, is that what you're saying?
Hampstead,
Or the-
yeah,
Or the
call 'em-
SAU.
and or the SAU
You call them
55.
adverse parties.
Adverse parties, okay?
And or the SAU.
Oh, it is.
Adverse parties is fine.
I would like to add, and any action, maybe action is not the right word, anything related to this Timberlane School Board.
Okay. Like this was.
Well, like letters that were,
Yeah.
letters that went out about, regarding different things.
So why do we have to specify?
Yeah, I don't know how that fits into that motion.
Well, why
Can
can't
you
we just say
clarify?
that we authorize to seek
And as soon as
We're not gonna,
Right.
independent legal
Phone.
counsel?
we're not gonna pretend again that the superintendent sent out legal letters without board authority, when the school board chair and each one of the three entities directed the work. We're not gonna pretend that again, are we?
Point of
I'm
order.
not saying that at all.
Stop,
Well, okay.
stop,
Saying that-
That's the
stop.
truth.
I'd like, we have a
That's the
motion
truth.
on the floor in a second.
I didn't say that.
Are we in agreed? That that's what, that'll be the direction, and we'll be in communication just as soon as Brian gets off the phone.
Yep.
All those in favor? 9-0-0, thank you. All right, we're putting this to bed for the night. We are at
11:20.
11:20. Brian's been up since 6 a.m.
There you go,
and
something like that,
5:30,
whatever it
and
is.
I've lost my
It's getting
agenda,
old stuff.
so it must be past my bedtime. Oh, no.
Administrator reports.
Hey, thank you, I got it. Administrators report, do we have any, sir?
Excellent. I'll be quick. We have a donation. The Learning Center at Sandown Central has been gifted a laminator valued at $1,630 from the Rock Church. Since the item is valued over $500, the donation requires school board approval. So I'd like you to approve that donation of $1,600.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any
Lee
discussion?
and Sheila, you got it? Any discussion?
Discussion about a laminator?
They need it
No, you
desperately.
don't want to talk about a laminator. All right, all in favor of accepting the donation? Thank you very much, Rock Church.
Thank you. On behalf of Principal Marino and the whole staff there, and if you know I know the people from Rock Church, the work that they're doing in that building is incredible. Painting, everything. These people are really incredible. She's doing a fantastic job. So I want to thank them for all that they do. They volunteer hundreds of hours there. We have a TPAF on bullying. We talked about this a little bit several meetings ago. As part of the district's anti-bullying initiative, the next TPAF session is going to be held on November 27th. That's going to focus on how to bully-proof your child, provide training on how to bully-proof from both a bully and a target standpoint. And so, again, that's on November 27th. That will be here, right? And with Susan. I'm sorry, that will be at the middle school, because we were expecting hopefully some people. Finally, a conversation I had with Dr. Farah, just informally about Ceresc and about membership. Now, whether you know Ceresc or you don't know Ceresc, they're vendors that work for Ceresc, and then we contract with them and they do work for us. And in the past, we've always been a member, so we pay a membership fee. And so what that membership fee gave us, it gave us a discount, and it also gave us preferential, access to certain services and that sort of thing. Now, I was on the board, and they've changed their organization, if you will. Remember, they sold the building. If this is new to somebody, they had a huge event center. They sold that, moved to a small office building. Superintendent from Bedford was kind of the co-chair. He has since resigned from his position in Bedford. I don't really know as much as I used to know, because I was on the board, and so information. I do know that it's not a membership organization anymore. What's that mean? It means we don't get a discount except for the contracts that we have it was already embedded in the contract, right? So they're gonna have to honor those discounts. So we're not getting a discount. We're also not paying the membership fee. So your next logical question, did the discount far exceeded what we paid for a membership fee? That's why we paid a membership fee. So if we paid $25,000 and we saved $75,000, that was great, or whatever it is, and we use them for a lot. So that's the current state of Ceresc. It's still operating, it's still working. So you must have had a crystal ball when you took the Ceresc membership out of the, right? Remember, it wasn't.
Well, it was discussed.
I know, it was discussed about them not operating anymore, but this is just a little different. This was a little bit of a curveball. I heard some discussion, I didn't know it was formalized until we started pressing them for where's the discount, where's the discount? Where's the discount? And then there's, like I said, there's at least one that they have to honor, and we're fighting with them. So while that's going on, I'm trying to get into the market of finding speech and language pathologists and hearing experts and feeding and swallowing elsewhere. Not like we did when we went to places that cost 2 and 3 times as much. I'm trying to get into that market somehow, some way in Massachusetts and try to find a way to have access to these services. I have a bad feeling that we won't be a priority moving forward a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. I gotta have another plan. And the plan of going to places that cost 2 and 3 times as much is a bad plan, right? That was a safety plan. This is, I think, a little bit more proactive in a sense. I want to try to find and get some people to, speak. I don't want to pay them hourly. I want to try to get them to work here. So we're going to do, kind of an aggressive recruiting, but I got to kind of spend some time. So there's a conference coming up. I'll get to that. I'll get to some different things and try to find a way to get those services for us, right? Because this doesn't really feel all that great to me. It doesn't sit all that well with me the way this is kind of unfolding. So that's really the work. So that's as much as I know about that. I mean, Jeff is on, with them all the time. I know we have vendors chasing payments and different things, which is frustrating because we pay our bills on time. Not knocking them, but it's just, I don't know, it's become a little frustrating. And we just want to make sure that it's always been about the continuity of services, especially some of our special ed kids that really need some of these specialized services. Right?
I was just gonna ask, all right, so Are other area districts going to be in similar situations?
I think-
Could we look to share?
That's all part of it. And that's why I even want to look over the border to Haverhill to Lawrence in that way, because I feel like we're on the outskirts of the Ceres thing, because it's really Bedford, Merrimack, it's more that way. And I think a lot of the people that work there were traveling south because they had to, because we were one of the member districts. But for a long time, Wyndham was a member, Pelham was a member, all these places kind of dropped out over the last few years, over the last 4 or 5 years. So we're kind of on the outskirts, and so, and there's some of these, they do great work. I mean, we'd love to hire some of these people, but in the meantime, when contracts were signed, failed to compete clauses and those sorts of things were embedded in some of these new contracts that some of the vendors have. That's why the longer contracts with some of the vendors was, in retrospect, a good move, because they couldn't change the terms on us. But a lot of those terms would change for individuals, because the board had encouraged me to try to reach out and try to get oral agreements with some of these vendors in the event that Ceres went under, that they would continue to work for us. We've worked hard with some of our directors to try to recruit and get them to think about working here for us full-time. It's hard, though, if you're making a lot more hourly than, and you're kind of creating your own schedule, to be on a traditional schedule here on a. So we're trying to be as proactive as possible about this and get out in front of as much of this as we can, because these services, the continuity of these services, especially, like I said, some of the specialized services for some of our neediest students are, that's a priority for this district, priority for the people that work here, certainly a priority for the families, so we're going to keep working at that. And they're really specialized, so they're, you want to talk about critical shortages, these are really some unique positions.
Can we get a list of the Ceres contracts we have for our next meeting?
That was part of it, and that was why I started to allude to, a lot of them they're specialized. So we contract with people, like, for instance, if you were a feeding and swallowing specialist, that would be a contract we would have, and they would service X amount of kids, and that's why I said it starts to get into direct services to children. So if we just say, all right, how about just this is this person, this is their specialty, and this is the number, and this is how many kids they service, is that good enough? Right? We did something similar when we were chasing some of this down last
Do
year.
you need to know the number of kids they service?
Well, it'll help clarify the number, right? So if the number's really big, you're gonna be like, well, how many kids is?
If you have one at 30,000, another one at 120.
Yeah.
Well, what
That
does
would be a
equal?
question I would ask if I saw a really big number. I'd be like, all right, I'm hoping this is more than 2 kids.
Qualifications.
I agree.
Yeah, so I don't know if I just created some crazy task for somebody, they're gonna have a hard time with it. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
great.
I have a question relative to this whole Ceres. I thought it was previously stated that the way that they were honoring their discount is that they were charging full price and they were going to be crediting
At the end.
the savings on the services for the membership. But then since now the membership has gone away, they're still going to owe us money
Well,
for the discount?
This is a good question, and we don't have that answer. It's an answer that he's trying to figure out.
So this is still to be determined, but it is.
To pin them down to something, because, like I said, I'm not on the board, so I don't have direct access to the decisions when and I'm not even getting, I'm getting no communication. I send an email, I get nothing back, right? So it's,
Jason worked there?
Yeah. So, no, but so, they call, yeah.
Recent.
They call Jeff back occasionally, right? Because he pays the bills, but,
Well, then I think what we should do is rethink that.
Yeah,
Or
let's
se-
stop
or-
paying the
or
bills, that'll
just
work out
Well,
well.
Take it on out and itemize it.
well, that's not, it's about, again, at the end of the day, it's about the continuity of services to children, and so we're getting this done, but I just, we're trying to be proactive and get out in front of this in terms of, we gotta have another plan. We have to have another plan, because, can you imagine, just someday, all of a sudden, all these we don't have these services, just someday?
No,
That's scary. It was scary 2 years ago, and we thought it might not exist anymore. It's even more
Planning doesn't
scary.
Put all your eggs in one basket.
Well, I think we've been asking about that for a while. What else can we do? Because
The
Well,
problem is there aren't a lot of baskets.
Yeah, so we went to like, is it Booth Bay? Is that another company, and it was like 2 or 3 times as much for the same services. So we were like, all right, that's not a great option either. And so, especially where we want to make this budget work, right? So that's where I'm making the numbers work. Doubling and tripling lines is not helpful when we're trying to get it flat, right? So that's the work. So that was the update on that. I didn't have,
Personnel?
I have personnel. I just have one person. You have it. We were able to find a computer technology teacher who was actually subbing for us and had credentials, Ronald Turcott. So I'll be looking for a motion to
So we're looking for a motion to,
Motion to accept Ronald Turcott for the technology teacher benefits.
is there a second? Kristen seconding, any discussion about anything? Be careful if we need to go into non-public.
I know, I'm trying to think of how I don't wanna go into non-public, I'm just, curious about this last line here, there's gotta be something more.
The previous experience?
Yeah. I'm not saying it's I mean, I would, given what the position is, I can guess what it might be, but.
Christie, do you have
Oh,
any,
yeah.
any more to add in terms of experience?
He's coming out of the corporate world.
So this is educational experience, not corporate experience, obviously.
But given this position, I think that's valuable information, that's good information, thank you.
I assumed that only when I saw the 1983.
Yeah, right, and then I saw that, I'm like, there's gotta be
He
more,
must have done- yeah, he had to work a couple of days. since-
more there, yeah.
I have one other personnel,
Can we vote? We haven't
Oh,
voted.
sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
All in favor? 900, thank you. What other thing?
The other personnel, and it's not on your personnel report primarily, and I know Principal Woodworth had indicated earlier, and I don't want to go into great detail primarily because we have a teacher that's out, we have a dean that's out, and he had mentioned that we have a teacher that is going to, and we're still working out the details how this works, like, does she have to take a temporary leave from her teaching position to step into this role? And so we're working that out with the TTA, and because there's supervisory things and that, but we have Megan Guanci that will be stepping into that role from now through Christmas, and then hopefully we'll be able to welcome that staff member back after, so. That's just a temporary thing, so that's why it's not on the personnel report, so it's not necessarily technically a hire. That's like one of those things where I can have to put somebody in somewhere in an emergency situation, almost like a sub. But we were very happy that Megan stepped up. She's great, and she does a wonderful job. You've seen her do a lot of extra things here, like Project Hope and Touch a Truck and all those. I mean, she does everything. So she stepped up for us. She's still going to keep an eye on her kids that she has in her class. But she doesn't have teaching responsibilities. But she'll help whoever we get to sub in there, and so we're very appreciative of that. So that's that one change there administratively that he had indicated earlier this evening.
Committee reports, and I'm gonna start to make this, one action, put committee reports and reports of the school board as one, because it's us reporting out instead of going around once and going around a second time. So, committee reports, curriculum's meeting 2 weeks, the 13th, we've moved the date of that meeting to accommodate, myself, I'm gonna be out of town, so I thank you for that. I went to the Halloween parade at Pollard. It was lots of fun. That was yesterday, and I think that's all I have for committee stuff and reports. Brian?
Jeff already gave us the budget update, so it's very nice. Thank you. And as Jim mentioned earlier tonight, there was a Charlie George, who has been very generous, that was honored as Atkinson Citizen of the Year. That was a good time had by all, put on by the Atkinson Lions Club. And that's
Nice, that's nice. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Mr. George, for doing that, earning that.
Yeah. So,
Policy committee met tonight, and it was an very ambitious agenda with, I think, about 12 policies on it. Unfortunately, we did not get through as many as we wanted to, and I'll take a little bit of responsibility for that, only because, again, a situation where one policy referenced another one and another one, and so one turned to 3, turned to 6. So even though it may seem slow-moving, hopefully in the long run, we'll have everything aligned and where it needs to be. Sue also asked me to reach out to New Hampshire School Board Association for an update on the policy review. I sent them an email, I haven't heard back, so I'm gonna reach out, make a phone call, and just see where we are in the queue, winter, spring, summer. Not looking for a specific, but,
As long as we're on the list, I guess.
yeah.
Anything else?
So obviously personnel met today and we all had that update earlier in the evening. That was the only committee. I forgot to mention this at the last meeting, went to the Dover Band Show a couple of weeks ago, and Timberlane once again killed it, as we always do. It was a great night. It was cold, as it usually is, but it was so much fun. The amount of community members that come out to support the band, the middle school goes up as well. They take a bus and just have a lot of fun and buy way too many Krispy Kreme donuts. And it was just a great night. And it was my last one. My son's a senior. Ugh. So, anyway.
Krista?
I haven't had anything scheduled yet, but I.
You might want to just double check about the safety meeting, when that's scheduled. Get the
coming up.
dates on that. I thought it was.
9 o'clock, I think.
I'm on that
And
too, I think.
Unfortunately, I'm in court at that exact same time, so I might.
So if you need me to cover, I will help, because there has to be two of us there. So there's only two of you on the committee, so I'll step in and help.
Okay.
I'm around.
That's me, right?
You are on safety.
The fort.
I think it was the 14th.
I thought it was the 11th, but this.
That sounds weird, because I know the 14th's a Wednesday, and it's usually,
Tuesday.
He's been moving them.
We can double check
we move
those
it?
dates.
Been moving
let
them.
me look.
This morning ones were tough.
So we'll double check those dates, but
Yeah, because that's
I
what
thought
I
it
was
was
given
on
last time.
Tuesday.
was-
Okay, all right,
But
we'll
if
double
it's the
check.
11th, or that's even better for me.
We're talking November, right?
November.
Not the
November
11th.
11th is a Sunday.
Yeah, that'd be hard.
So it's not on Sunday. It's usually a Tuesday.
Well, it's not on the Timberlane app for the 13th.
Oh, it was the week of, right, I think he moved it
Oh,
because it
no,
was the week of.
Kristen's right, it's on Wednesday, unless it's been moved again.
Right, nope, nope.
At
It
9
was, he
o'clock?
originally had it on
Wednesday,
Monday.
Yeah, you have safety at 9 and facilities at
It
10.
was holiday.
So,
Yep.
so Sue, I will,
the holiday?
unfortunately.
Okay,
I'm
so
supposed to
I'll
do
come,
Wednesday.
so you got facilities at 10
When is this?
on the 14th.
Oh, sorry. Which will bring me to my second thing I would like to
Yes.
say, which I wanted to say earlier and didn't have a chance. I just wanted to thank Brian for, I know since our last meeting, it's been crazy for you. I know you've been on the phone, and I appreciate all your effort. It's a thankless job, but I think you put a lot of personal energy and effort into it.
I echo
and
that
I
as
think
well,
you-
Brian.
I just wanted to give you kudos for that, because I think you went above and beyond, and thank you.
Welcome.
That's all I got.
Sheila,
I second her motion.
it's not a motion.
I took the choice Monday of Danville, Sandown North, and Sandown Central. And I was remiss last time I talked about this. I really want to throw a shout out to all the custodians and the facilities people. Those schools look really good. They really, really look very good. They're
So
clean.
Rodney Mills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're clean. The paint at Sandown Central, I haven't been in Sandown Central in years, and that school is amazing inside now. It looks really
good.
good. Yeah, they've done an amazing job.
Minus the
Um,
avocado.
The tours were good. The
Good.
tours were really good. So I'm glad I
Were
went.
they well attended,
No,
budget committee people?
we had 2 budget committee people and myself.
The one I went on, I
People,
think
what,
there was
5
just
people,
myself
some
and a
people, and I
couple
drove
Yeah.
by.
budget.
There wasn't many of
Yeah.
us. There wasn't many of us at all.
Because they changed, the budget committee moved the nights of those to a non-budget
Right, a
committee
Monday
meeting
night, so it
night, so
would
they
work.
moved them another night, and
But they started at 4, and I think people had trouble getting out of work. But if you did it any later, it was dark, you couldn't see outside, so
yeah.
it really was
It's never a
tough. But
perfect
I was
time.
remiss in not saying what a great job they did on those schools. They really, really did very good.
Nice. Lee,
Just to add to policy committee, I think tonight we came to a consensus that we're going to now start displaying the NHSBA policies as we review the policies that are in front of us, to look for circular references
Okay.
and cross-references to other policies, and maybe changing the format on our policies where we're footnoting or adding to the header other policies that are referenced. That'll be something new that you folks will see. When it comes to you, that's if a committee and just regular report for myself. I will not be able to attend the SAU meeting in person on the 14th. I may be able to participate remotely. That's to be determined.
Make sure you give that bridge thing to us.
That's it, you have that
It's
conference number, right?
open. I mean, we could dial in right now, and it's active all the time.
So just if Ken has whatever you gave him. I
Yeah.
don't know what you gave him.
Yeah, I just gave him a phone number.
Wonder if you get
The
the
bad
same
phone.
sigh.
I thought you had some special bridge thing, some special.
Yeah, no, it's just
has
a
a
regular.
wand in his pocket.
Don't call in from the airport restaurant.
I tried putting on mute.
Wow, it was like, whoa, where is he, on the runway?
I'll be on South Beach somewhere.
All right, so leasing, he's not gonna be at the SAU meeting.
In physical form.
Sean,
You might have to email
I'm all
the chair
set.
and let them know.
I will.
Sean?
I just wanted.
he should, you should,
I planned on it. I just wanted this board aware.
Let them let us know.
Sean,
I'm all set. I
all
don't.
set, he's
Sean.
all set.
I'm all set.
Lee,
Just the
Kim's
one
all
thing?
set? Yes.
The one thing. Remember we had the discussion about student fundraising, and we kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, right? So they're not raising funds for the school, they're raising funds for themselves, which they can do. We don't really have any authority over that. That makes sense? Right there. If they do a GoFundMe for themselves to pay for something that they have to pay the school for, right? It's similar to what TMA does, right? It's that you
Yeah, they
the
have their
accounts
own
fund.
individual accounts.
So our policies don't necessarily apply in terms of like going to the principal and asking permission. You know, they could go raise money. If I needed a new baseball glove and I couldn't afford one, I wanted to play baseball and I had to go out and raise money for it.
Brian,
I could go raise money, I could go raise money on my own and buy my baseball glove. I don't have to ask anybody's permission. So it gets a little, it's not as clean as going to the principal and asking for permission and our support. They're not giving the money to us.
But
That's
if
what
if they're raising it under the guise of we're this organization under the school and we're raising it, they're not raising it as fund me individually or fund myself and
my
my four
understanding is,
friends
my understanding they
buy
are.
our equipment.
My understanding is they're raising it for themselves.
And
I talked
perhaps
to the
don't mention
teacher.
the school board.
The what?
Then perhaps don't mention the school board.
Well, they said $8,000.
No, what, yeah, that part about it, there's things we can call
$8,000.
them in and say like, hey, listen, this is,
But that's what I'm saying, I mean, so
that we can do.
if you see something and they're representing themselves as an entity or an organization under the school, and not as individuals that are trying to raise money to participate in that.
Right.
I mean, I understand, if it's individuals raising money to participate in an organization, that's one thing. I mean, if there were 5 lacrosse players that all wanted great equipment, and they said, hey, help us fund, we want these sticks, then that's them saying, we just want the sticks so we can play. But if they come out and say, look, the lacrosse team needs new nets, that's putting, or raise money for our team, that's making it look not
Well,
individual, and
There's
that's
three different
the
things though.
line.
It's what it is, how it looks, and what it should be. Right? So I don't think this one is as clean as, I think they were just raising the money so they could pay for their trip. I mean,
And
I'm
not-
sure it was well-intentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's arguing that, it's just.
the language was not, we didn't
The
appreciate
language
it.
had, and it did get cleaned up.
Did it?
After the meeting, it
Right away?
got cleaned up,
But
just
that's-
like that. It
But
was,
that's all
that
we
part
need,
of
is
it-
just getting
right.
it, making sure it's just
That
represented
part
the
of
right
it,
way.
about the
Proper
budget and all that
representation.
was taken out,
Good.
so.
And these are great kids, so that wasn't that hard. I'm
And
sure.
no
Yeah.
one questions
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
it's
so-
just,
Right.
it's the image and the portrayal, and the perception that's
So
out there.
what's the proper procedure then? Because that has
I
to
don't
be,
know,
that
that's
has
what
to be,
I
well, that
asked.
has to be established though, because if we're gonna make rules about it, and if we're gonna say that this isn't okay, then there has to be clearly defined rules. Like, is private fundraising,
For
like-
private party?
It is
I
okay
think
if they're
that's
raising
fine.
it for you. I mean,
I would
yeah.
say, I would argue that too. I don't
Yes.
think there's necessarily anything wrong with private fundraising. In fact, they're even going, the next Milkman show is being sent right into their accounts.
They're giving them the money.
Yeah, so any
And
donations.
that's
that they-
fine, but what I'm
Right.
saying is that you don't write on a GoFundMe because of the restraints in the budget, we're not being given money from the Timberland.
Right. No, all I'm saying, I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is
That
that
was my whole
if
issue.
that's the case, then there has to be clearly stated rules that if you actually haven't asked the board for money, then you can't do it.
Well,
But-
the tricky thing is, it's like if you were
can
raising
still-
money for the school, we have policies that, so you
Right.
go to the principal, say, listen, I
All I'm
want to.
saying is, if it's stated, that's fine. But if we're gonna pursue something like this, and if it is a big issue, but I think we're moving past it, it just, in the future, it needs to be stated.
Well, and that's
think
what
maybe
was
even-
potentially the policy committee looking at, to determine what policies may apply, might come together, or might give direction,
Right.
or do we need to tweak anything?
Because it's never been
To
done.
allow-
It hasn't been done. So,
Right.
it's just.
This is a new, it's a
Right.
new area.
I think every group is overseen by some professional staff,
We
right?
have an advisor.
So I even just,
But this particular thing, the professional staff was not involved in this.
well, that's what I was just gonna say. So I think maybe a simple solution is just run it by whoever the advisor is and
Go
say,
through the advisor.
yeah, how's this look? What do you think?
And that's what happens after we have a discussion here,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so, and then the right things happen. So I think we're in good
Yeah, I don't
shape.
think
just
it's a
think
big deal. It's
some
just-
things have teeth,
yeah.
some things don't. And, and these are great kids doing a great, we don't want to, we want to make sure
Mhm.
everybody feels respected and supported. And And that's you and too, that's the school board too, right? And so that's how that works.
I have one other thing under other business. I sent this out to you, the questionnaire from our auditor. And Lee was the only one that
Oh, I forgot about
responded
that,
back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
so I'm gonna finish this up. It's not holding up the audit.
Okay, I'll try and take a look at that.
And it's not holding up the audit, and I'm putting in, the conflict of interest and the ethics policy statement and all that stuff they ask you if we have. Yes, 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 yes. And I wanna get that finished, but I wanted you to see it because it's addressed to us. So I'm gonna close the door on this, let's see, for Sunday. If I don't hear from you Sunday, I'm gonna fill in the boxes and send this over.
Knock yourself out.
Really? You don't wanna do it with me?
I'll do it with you. It's
No,
no big deal.
I think
No
I can do
problem.
it.
Can I just
I'm not
ask for
around this
one
weekend,
thing
but
for an
no problem.
agenda?
Huh?
Well, one thing for a future
Future
agenda.
agenda, yes.
Yeah, just, we talked a little bit about the bullying thing and the TPAF that's coming up. I would like to add that the board see what the actual bullying procedure is, because I think last time we met and we talked about it, we
They
talked a lot
referenced
about the policy.
procedure, but didn't tell us the procedure, right? So we see a copy of the procedure. You do this, this happens, they do this.
When
this
is Susan
happens.
coming? Do we pick a
I
date?
think
And
she's coming the second meeting in November,
no, in
No.
December.
December.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just,
He wasn't
it was
available.
interesting because we had
She wasn't
bullying
a-
procedure on the last agenda, but we never actually saw a procedure.
We can send out a form to you, or if you want her back.
See
Well, is the form the procedure?
Yeah, it's gonna be like, it's gonna be
The
a
form that
dash
would go
R.
with the procedure, but
It's
It's
a
gonna be the dash R.
Right.
yes.
that's the R, but there'd be.
I
Just get it
can't find
in
that
a-
anywhere.
Oh.
But there's still more on that.
It's not posted anywhere, I think.
Anything
under
else? Yes, Lee?
development.
I meant to do it when we went around the table. So last meeting, we talked about the read-only file and getting notification if there was something added to the read-only file. So no notification, I'm assuming we didn't get anything in the read-only file.
When I came in to sign the manifest, I looked through it and there was nothing new that we didn't already know. It hadn't already come through.
The only reason I ask, it's a new process, I just wanna make sure.
I didn't.
Should worry about me. We don't have to worry about Mrs. Belcher. She'll get that.
So there was nothing new that I thought, oh, they should probably go in. But if you were here to sign that, if you're here doing that for that purpose, take 5 seconds, well, 5 minutes,
Good.
and just look at that file. And I've asked Mrs. Belcher to keep track of when we come in. So it says Sue Sherman, such a date, in 10 minutes, and I just, it's good bookkeeping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheila, something else,
One last thing.
okay?
In the meeting minutes, we had in, and I highlighted it too, the salary line,
Oh, the
Report.
salary line item detail, no, still
it
haven't
was in
gotten
the
that.
meetings that we asked for
Other
it.
thing,
Do
remember?
we know where that is?
Oh, but that other, yeah.
Do I know where it is? I don't know where it is, but Kim had
The
requested.
board requested a line-by-line salary detail report by position and name as well,
Yes,
and we approved those.
we have
minutes.
not gotten that yet.
No?
When we get it, we'll all get it.
Question is
Why
that
not?
we have no idea when we're ever gonna get it.
Cause that's the third meeting we brought it up.
So
Can we get an ETA on it?
where do we stand after
Will you
3
get
meetings?
ETA on it, says Mr. Duty? Before the next meeting, by the next meeting, by the
We
next.
talk about the
meeting.
current one, not next year's, right?
Current one,
Current one right now.
current list. Anything else? Okay, John, I'm adjourning at 11:49. Thank you, Nick.
I know.